Right, good morning, Ms. Matias. We are live streaming and recording. We'll proceed with the public review executive session.
I can't hear anything. Can you hear it?
Okay.
I can hear Tony.
Thanks. Okay.
Good morning. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals Review Session for Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. Please note for the record that Commissioner Sheta will be absent today. The first items up are zoning calendar, continued hearing items, item number 2023 12BZ, 23015 Merrick Boulevard, Queens. This hearing is adjourned for this case.
Yes, applicant requested an adjournment to respond to DOT comments.
Item number 2023 58BZ, 19718 Hillside Avenue, Queens.
I think we are waiting for comments from DOT. DOT recently had issued a comment and applicant has to respond to that. In addition, with regards to the plan, I did not see a note regarding the AVC that it will be on all the time stated on the plan. And with regards to the lumen plan, the site plan needs to include the light poles on the site. It is only shown in the plan set that shows the lumen analysis. So integrate the light pole into the locations of the light poles in the site plan also. Those are my comments for now. Vice Chair Shibata.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing to add.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
I have no additional comments.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Yoon.
I have nothing further.
Okay.
Item number 2024-10BZ, 1679 63rd Street, Brooklyn. This project is also adjourned.
Yes, the applicant received a letter from the school safety strongly recommending that this site not be considered for a school due to safety concerns, and applicant response to the letter was applicant has requested actually a meeting with DOT school safety to find a way to address their concerns for the subject site. So, and hence the adjournment.
Item number 2024 42BZ, 2031 Eastern Parkway Extension, Brooklyn.
Okay. After the initial hearing, board had during that hearing, board had made some had asked for some clarification. Applicant has submitted its response to the comments, and the submission. As I looked through the submission, I found the submission to be very responsive to the comments, including revising the buildings revising the building bulk by reducing the height of the building. And the height has been reduced to now 221 feet. Not only has the applicant reduced the building height by choosing a different material, at the same time has also been very conscious of the carbon footprint in selecting the material. So I do appreciate that. Though it's not a requirement, but it was a thoughtful way of approaching, and I think it's so. We want the height to be reduced, though the applicant stated that the lobby height really needed to be what was proposed, because that is a place a lot of gathering will be happening, and therefore needed to maintain a little higher floor to ceiling height. I was okay with that. In addition, the revised plan set shows a tower that is set back from a DeSalle Place above the height of 9th floor. It is now set back by 15 feet from the 9th floor onwards, and then furthermore 25 feet from 16th floor onwards. So it really does reduce the appearance of the bulk at the street line at DeSalle Place quite a bit, because and I know I had asked for that to be revised because I found the DeSalle to be a narrower street compared to the Eastern Parkway. So the building footprint being reduced, I think would be a better neighborhood character. And so the overall reduction of this reduces the floor area also. And the applicant has responded to the questions I had raised regarding the mechanical rooms and staircases, and I think I'm okay with all the explanation. I just want the applicant to be certain to make sure that the mechanicals space that are located, please look into it if it is exempted from the underlying zoning floor area. And so should look at the definition of 1210 of floor area, because when I was looking at it under 1210(8), floor space used for accessory mechanical equipment, it's and 15, which is floor space within a fully electrified building or an ultra-low energy building of an amount equivalent to 5% of the floor area located within such building are exclusive of any floor space otherwise excluded from floor area are exempted from floor area. So please do look through that, and if that can help further reduce the FAR, do look into that. Regarding the Azafrite manufacturing building over the tunnel, we received another letter from the engineer, and I found that very helpful. And the statement of fact findings has been revised accordingly. Sorry, I have one more question. And I think based on that, the statement of facts has been revised, and also, so overall, I'm satisfied with the submission. Vice Chair Shibata.
Thank you, Chair. I found the submission to be very responsive. I appreciate that the parapet has been reduced to 4 feet, that the unit heights have been reduced to 10.35 feet, and that they decreased the total building height by over 21 feet. I also appreciated the schematic foundations and seismic studies review. I found those to be reasonable. I have nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, excuse me, sorry. Commissioner Otley Brown.
I'm satisfied with the project and have no questions.
Thank you. I'm just opening. Oh no, this is failing. I have comments from Commissioner, actually, I forgot to read out the note, Commissioner Shetter's note regarding 21. I'll read that. No, we can do that. We can do it at the end. Okay, let's do that. First, with regards to Eastern Parkway, Commissioner Shetter states regarding the revised engineering letter, which says, based on precedent project with both LIRR and MTA, the agencies would not allow a net load to be added above the transit infrastructure, foreclosing the ability to utilize a slab-on-grade foundation. The letter also describes why a platform foundation for a conforming project would still be infeasible from a cost and timing standpoint. Based on my experience with MTA and LIRR, these agencies typically don't allow buildings, foundations, imposing loads on their structures, such as tunnels, and they even require the loads from any proposed building to be dissipated outside the influence zone of their structure. A slab-on-grade system, example for a warehouse. This is a slip of tongue. Twice it has happened. Would impose an additional average area load on over 300 pounds per square foot. This is equivalent to about 3 feet of soil placed over the tunnel. I agree that this scenario would not be allowed by MTA and LIRR. And so I think that was his comments. Otherwise, he's okay with the application. All right. Commissioner Yoon.
Thank you. Thanks to the team for responding and walking us through the engineering calculus, and it was much clearer this time, the steps that you went through to arrive where you landed. I want to say for the record, we talked about building heights and floor to floor heights, and we will have projects that ask for height. And I want to say just on the record here that the claim that using 9'10" floor to floor heights will result in what, quote, a compressed feeling space, or that it would reduce the quality of life of the residents. I don't believe that to be true. And the only reason that I support the height that's being proposed is because of the sustainability measures that the team is trying to achieve. They will go through many hurdles, through many agencies and oversight. And they have the opportunity here to use something that will have a lower carbon footprint, which is a post and beam construction, potentially using steel, potentially using mass timber. That is the only reason why I think an over 10-foot floor to floor height for residential is appropriate here. Otherwise, the idea, the concept that this would be a reduced quality of life living space is just not true in my eyes. I've done a lot of housing, supportive, affordable, market rate, and never, ever have I done something higher than 9 feet for standard market rate housing. And that's the clear space. That's the highest I've ever done. So just for the record, I want to make it very clear why I support the taller heights. And I think that because this project has a long road ahead of it of further agency reviews, we can support this sustainable effort. I know that in the end, the project will come out being value engineered and, quite scrutinized from a cost perspective. And so it is with those reasons why I think we can support this height. I had one question. I did think the submission was very responsive. The statement cites an item 21 test fit that was to support the testing of, I think Chair had recommended trying to do an L shape at an acute angle. I didn't actually see the diagram. I don't know if it was part of the submission, but it was referenced in the statement of facts.
Yeah, I did not see it in the submission.
I think if the applicant has it and you can share it during the public hearing, that would be helpful. I do agree that it would be a difficult layout, but since it was cited and I didn't see it in the package, it would be good to at least show it during the hearing. Otherwise, I'm in support of this application. I have nothing further.
Thank you.
Oh.
Did you want to say anything?
No, I can't.
Oh, okay.
It's coming from the ether.
No, I didn't even notice it. Sorry. Sorry about that.
No, my bad, sorry.
New cases, item number 24, 2024, 51BZ, 1983, 54th Street, Brooklyn.
Okay, we received proof of service of initial filing, but the proof of notice of hearing was not served. And I think the applicant has met with the land use committee. I would say in this case, what I would recommend is that we proceed to review it, but under no circumstances do we come to any decision to close it. And the next hearing has to be properly noticed. And only based on that, we will continue with that hearing.
Chair, are we going to have a hearing even though the proof of notice wasn't provided?
We will proceed with the hearing today.
Mr. Director Consent.
Yes, and Madam Chair, it's an instruction really to the staff that we, upon an agreement of another hearing date, that the notice go out as if this was almost like a new case, so that there's no mistakes.
Yeah, we'll notify Marielle to send it out as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I think.
Huh?
Given that the board has already spent the time reviewing and calendaring this application, it's my position that the board can discuss the application and then invite the applicant to discuss it while the public has not been apprised properly of this meeting. I'd ask that the board not take any action to close or render any sort of decision on the application. The minutes of this meeting will be immediately available online. The public should have the opportunity to view all of the submissions and recording of this session prior to the next meeting, which should be put out with enough time.
May I proffer that I wouldn't object to us having a review, but I do believe that there is certain statutes that say that we can't have a hearing unless there's notice out. So I'm not going to object to what way the board wants to proceed, but I do want to state that that is a concern of mine.
Noted. I don't think there are a couple of cases where
Sure.
we have, that we, for certain reasons, we did proceed with it. And I think this fell within that, and that is why we are taking this step. You're absolutely right. We do not otherwise.
Sure.
So, this is an application for a bulk variance pursuant to zoning resolution section 7221 to develop a religious community facility for mikvah and additional religious services at the subject site. So the applicant is seeking lot coverage waiver, floor area, front yard, side yard, height and setback. DOB objection sheet only includes lot 46 and not lot 47. Because it has not been merged, until then, both lots should be included in the DOB objection sheet. So that needs to be revised. With regards to the existing, so the subject site consists of two tax lots. Currently, they're not merged. Lot 46 and 47 both have residential homes, and the proposal is to tear the two existing homes and replace it with the new development as proposed. So the existing site plan, my note is that the lot numbers of lots along 54th Street are incorrect. Lots 46 and 47 are comprised of so I think then somewhere the numbers changed, and so please go through and correct those. And applicant needs to provide a site survey map showing the easement for the alleyway. The easement document was not at all easy to read. I couldn't follow it. The text was kind of not very clear. So the applicant is proposing on this proposed merged lot a 4-story building with a cellar for a community facility that would be used for mikvah, that will serve the women in the Mapleton community, and will also provide additional space for counseling and classes for Jewish family. And in addition to this space, the cellar space, the applicant is also proposing to extend into the vault area under the sidewalk. So it was not at all clear from the plans or from the statement. So the applicant needs to make it very clear if the vault is being used under the sidewalk, and if it is, it needs to be used both for the as of right and for the proposed area. And it needs to be stated in the BSA documents that, and then the plan also, that the BSA is not reviewing anything that is being proposed under the vault. It is subject to DOT review and approval, and should there be any change to it, the applicant will have to come back for an amendment. So with regards to starting with the findings of 7221, deference has been afforded to religious and educational institutions, and a certificate of incorporation under Article 10 for religious incorporation law was provided. However, the statement of fact did not brief the deference, only referred to prior cases. Board in the past has acknowledged that mikvah as a religious institution is entitled to deference under New York State law as to zoning and as to the ability to rely upon programmatic needs to support the variance application. So with that, let's start with the A finding. In this case, it would be the programmatic need. As expected, we did see a very thorough programmatic report. And I would say I learned a lot from reading this report, and the graphics were very helpful with regards to the program and the need for some of the space requirements. Regarding the hardship with the As of Right Women's Mikvah, statement of fact states that, quote, basic mikvah spaces, it falls short in accommodating several essential program areas, including a library, multiple counseling rooms, and men's classrooms. So I have to say the programmatic need establishes the need for the mikvah to fulfill the religious requirement, but the statement of fact did not state any additional, I think for me, what was confusing is that mikvah has been presented as a separate thing, but all the other religious activities were not included. It was more or less identified as a separate function and not tied together. So, and these additional religious services are not part of the basic mikvah function. So I just found there was a little bit of a mismatch between the statements that were in these documents. Mikvah is open to everyone, regardless of affiliation, and unlike synagogue, it is attended by congregants of all sects, which I found very informative and helpful. Now, and the applicant states that the existing mikvahs are overcrowded, there's a long wait time, and this neighborhood suffers from it, so that is the need for it. Now, regarding the need for operational space, I want the report to provide a comparison chart of the program spaces for mikvah for as of right and proposed, and provide the capacity per square foot for each space. For example, as I compared the as of right plan and the proposed, I'm finding that more space has been allocated for storage in the as of right plan as opposed to the proposed for mikvah alone, when there will be less capacity in the as of right place. Similarly, apart from the need for separation of dry and wet corridor, there is excess corridor and circulation space in the area compared to in the as of right area compared to the proposed, given the occupancy rate. Furthermore, both as of right and proposed, when compared with the sample layouts of two mikvahs that were provided, both of them provide 12 to 14 prep rooms in a 3,200 square foot or to 3,600 square foot floor plate, whereas the as of right is able to provide only 14 prep rooms in a cellar and 20 in the proposed, with a 6,200 square foot space, floor place, plus the vault space under the sidewalk. So also the layout of the sample space optimize the wet and the dry corridor compared to the as of right and proposed. So my question is, what prevents a similar optimization of a layout being considered at the subject site and reducing some of the bulk waivers? Is the placement of the additional non-mikvah related functions on upper floor is preventing such a layout? So the driving of this site plan has to be primarily based on mikvah and not what is located above. And I find that how it is functioning below is largely being driven by what is going to be above the mikvah. So applicant needs to provide utilization rate of the spaces on the third and the fourth floor for weekdays and weekend. The program of mikvah is intended for religious counseling. The program of the space above mikvah is intended for religious counseling classes and library for Jewish families. Board has allowed such counseling services being provided in synagogues. I have not seen one in a mikvah. Now, regarding prior BSA cases provided, applicant needs to justify the nexus between the study space and the mikvah. 30-14 BZ was for a girls' school for children going from classes from preschool to high school, and Mikwa was located for only women in the basement. It was an independent operation and not the primary function. And in this case, I feel, as I stated, even though Mikwa is supposed to be the primary function, I find that the floors above are driving a lot of the layout and the bulk waivers. So in this case, as I said, much of the waiver is being driven by the second floor, the secondary uses that are located on the third and the fourth floor, which has to do with religious counseling, classes, libraries, and Jewish families. So when I look at the hours of operations, so the hours of operations for the classroom will be open from 9:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. Now, the hours of operation for the religious counseling will be during the weekdays, work weekdays, 9:30 to 3 p.m. The number of people that would attend during the weekdays, thus warranting a classroom for 65% capacity, I don't find that justifiable. So the applicant has to provide a very thorough study of the room utilization count for all of these spaces and by the hours, and that a similar space comparison. I am not convinced by the need for such a huge space for secondary uses. Finding B is since Mikwa is a nonprofit organization, it is exempt from the finding. With regards to the neighborhood character, applicant needs to provide more clarity on the use of the various entries and exits. 4 groups, so there are like 4 groups of entry and exits, or for 4 different entities, 1 for women, 1 for administrative, 1 for staff, 1 for Mikwa, and 1 for men. So there are so many different uses and there are so many different entry and exit points. So please consolidate where possible and minimize these blank walls. I understand privacy is needed, but there are other ways to articulate it. And I think there are too many entry and exits, which is also affecting the circulation, taking too much of the circulation space and asking for a larger floor plate. While I may consider, as I said, the building bulk is largely being driven by these additional secondary uses that are located on the 3rd floor and 4th floor. While I may be willing to consider a modification of the yard and lot coverage waiver for Mikwa, I'm absolutely not convinced at this moment about the size of the space allocation for the religious counseling classes library for Jewish families on the 3rd floor and the 4th floor. At most, that I can consider looking at it is a much modified religious counseling program on a much reduced floor plate, preferably within the height and setback confines. So applicant needs to provide streetscape plan, front yard studies along both street frontages. And I did not see a title report as part of the self-created hardship, so that needs to be provided. And definitely finding F has not been achieved. E has not been achieved. I'm sorry. I generally have it as a number, and I was trying to mentally translate the number to
It's at the alphabet gets
to the alphabet. So I'm sorry about that. So please do address that. What is the environmental status on this? I think.
Ms.
Well,
Prenga.
Madam Chair, we, Director Jala Prenga has her hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Prenga.
I just wanted to let the board know of 2 items. We received a submission on March 19th for the common ownership lot research. And the conclusion of the report was that it was not, lots 46 and 47 were not under common ownership with adjoining properties. So we did get that very recently, like I said. So I'll send an email link so you can definitely see it. And then we also did receive on the same day a revised DOB objection sheet
Okay,
that came in with listing both lots 46, 47. So yeah, those were outstanding, but then we did get a late submission to receive those.
case I had reviewed, so I guess I didn't go back and look at the revised submissions. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for
Thanks.
the,
Thanks. Oh, and Shadows is open for seeker to my knowledge. Thanks.
great.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Shibata.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with many of your comments. I do agree that there needs to be some clarity with regard to the room usage and size of the rooms on the third and fourth floor, the programmatic needs therein, and whether this usage is entitled to Cornell deference. Also, as a minor note, I see that there are windows on the rear of the building, and I ask that they be opaque and inoperable so that they maintain the privacy of the neighbors to their back. Your review was very thorough. I have nothing to add at this point.
Thank you. I did not notice the windows on the side lot, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Otley Brown?
So in my history on the board, I've seen a few mikveh applications for women's mikvahs. And one thing that they all had in common was they were based on the fact that mikveh experience is a very private, very modest experience, almost secretive. And the buildings reflected that. The buildings were made to look nondescript or like a home in the neighborhood. And there was a lot of care to ensure a woman's privacy, both getting into the mikveh and leaving the mikveh. That was the primary goal here. And what I see here totally departs from that view of a mikveh. First of all, this building is monumental, huge. It's not a very discrete building at all. It has several uses comprised. The uses to me seem to be at odds with the whole idea of privacy and secrecy and modesty. And so I don't understand how programmatically this all comes together in a mikveh project. And so even though they say that the classrooms are going to be utilized during the day and the mikveh is going to be utilized at night, in a situation where there's such a shortage of mikvahs in this area, you would think that you would want a building devoted solely to mikvah so that you could expand your hours of operation to accommodate the prime customer base without any
Good point.
sort of issue where different uses are coming into collision with each other, which would definitely, to me, sacrifice the main mission of a mikveh. So that's my overall issue. I think they need to do more because to me, this is a case of first impression. They need more, do more to show me that mikvahs are co-located with other uses by perhaps giving me examples of other mikvahs in New York City that have combined various uses that don't seem like they're very compatible with each other on first examination. So that would be very helpful. They need to do something in terms of building design to make this building not stick out like a sore thumb in the neighborhood, because mikvahs are supposed to be discreet. This is anything but discreet. And they need to talk more about the number of people attending the classes and why they need such large rooms. I agree with you because it is driving the bulk. There's no setbacks on the upper floors because they need all of this extra space for the classroom. That's problematic. As to the parking and the parking waiver, they're talking about how they need a parking waiver because women visiting the mikveh tend to be driven there or they walk there. But remember, you also have this other use of people who are coming for classes. and all sorts of things, and they're not necessarily gonna walk. So the whole argument for the parking waiver goes by the wayside when you're considering this whole other population that's gonna be utilizing this building as well. And so those are my comments.
It's a very good point. So need to do a parking analysis, parking demand supply analysis, and justify if you are seeking a waiver, not just for mikvah, but for the other uses, given that such large rooms are being considered to be open from 9 to 3 p.m. Mondays through Sunday, right? Okay, let me read Commissioner Shetta's comments on this. Applicant needs to provide a property survey. The size of the women's classroom and admin office on the 3rd floor, as well as the men's classroom on the 4th floor, are larger than typical. Can these sizes be reduced to mitigate the required waiver? Also, the statement of fact says, quote, the applicant proposes to build a 4-story plus cellar women's mikvah. If this is a women's facility, what is the need for a men's classroom on the 4th floor? Okay. Commissioner Yoon.
Okay, thank you. I also agree with everything that's been stated. I don't feel like there's been a clear argument made why this mikvah has to serve so many educational needs when there are so many congregations in the area that have been listed in the programmatic needs report. Those congregations, as we see here, often have their own educational infrastructure and their own religious leadership that usually provides counseling and all of the services to their specific congregations, which leads me to ask a question about the mikvah and who is serving the population from a religious leadership standpoint, when typically we see synagogues that are associated with certain leaders, but in the mikvah, who is providing the counseling, and is it someone that's dedicated to the mikvah and everyone who attends, or is it specific to certain congregations? Because of the function, the mikvah being open to everybody, I'd like to understand a little bit better how the counseling and the education coincides. And I think that's something that's been commonly said today. So the programmatic needs study states, quote, having men and women using the same building creates logistical problems. And this is a bit repetitive, but I think everyone is curious about why there is a need for having men's facilities in a primarily women's facility that demands so much modesty and separation. Let's see, I don't want to repeat myself. Okay, so we're asking for here waivers of floor area, front yard, side yard parking, max height of walls and setbacks. You are also seeking a waiver of 24-51B1, which is the permitted obstructions of bulkheads. You note this on your drawings. You do not note this in your statement of facts. But to that point, the waiver of your max permitted obstruction of bulkheads, I don't think is justified here. You have a very regular rectangular site. You can put your bulkhead somewhere else to where they don't exceed this zoning requirement. Unless you can tell me otherwise, I don't see any reason why you cannot meet 24-51B1. We are missing several studies for requested waivers. You did provide a height study, but it clearly shows that the building that you're proposing is way higher than anything else immediately around it. You do have some conflicts between your building heights diagram and your height study. The buildings around have different heights noted, and so it's unclear to me what the actual height is of the school across the street or of any of the surrounding buildings. It also seems to be the other inconsistency is that you show a building on the same side of your block on 54th Street that is 45 feet high in one of the diagrams. I don't see it in Google Maps, and I also don't see it on your other heights diagram. So these need to be cleaned up, because I think in order to justify any height by saying that it's contextual, you need to provide consistent contextual diagrams. For the parking waiver, there's no parking calculation provided. We don't even know how many spaces that you are required to have. So we wouldn't know the degree of the waiver for providing 0 spaces. And are there any provisions anticipated for drop off and pickup, given that that's the primary expected mode of travel? We need elevations. These are drawing comments now, need elevations for all sides, even if there are buildings adjacent, because this building is proposed to be taller. The rendering does not show your bulkheads. So, but I guess it won't need to if you move them. But if there were to be bulkheads that appear from the street, you should show them in all of your depictions. Otherwise, it's a misleading representation of the project. Please explain why the elevator needs to go to the roof. This also adds to your bulkhead height, and it doesn't appear to be an occupiable roof. Your floor-to-floor heights seem a bit high, so I think there is room to also condense those, especially for the administrative or classroom floors if they remain. You need to dimension your setbacks on your second and third floor in the plans. These are only small, seems like architectural decorative setbacks perhaps. Look like they're a couple of feet. But overall, the dimensions need to be a bit more thorough. And there are 2 front yard waivers requested, and you should clearly indicate both on all of your documents. And on your zoning sections, please label the streets. And it's just some of the notes seem to be in the wrong place. You have a note that says max height of street above street wall. I think it should say max height of street wall above street. Just clean up stuff that would make the drawings a bit more legible and easier to understand. That's all I have for now.
Very thorough, thank you. One thing that I think both Commissioner Yoon and Commissioner Otley Brown picked up on was the parking. The parking study, a very thorough parking study has to be done if you're seeking a parking waiver, because as clearly pointed out, the drop off and the pickup, these are going to happen during evening hours when most of the time, this is a residential area. All the on-street parkings are going to be used and occupied by residents for them to park. So where is that drop off pickup and area is going to happen? How will that conflict or will not conflict with the residential? Specifically, this is first starting with the MICWA part of it. Second is during the daytime, all the occupants who will be using it, staff, admin, those who will be using the 3rd and the 4th floor, where are they going to park? Are they walking? Is that the requirement? Or will they be driving, because it's not near any subway or any transit bus stops either. So where will they be parking, and what is the utilization and the capacity of these? And so that analysis has to be thorough. It has to be like a typical, if you're proposing this, it has to be like the utilization study that we ask for in the synagogue and provide all the programmatic breakdowns. Commissioner Yoon pointed out a very interesting thing. And what I did find interesting is that MICWA can be used by any congregants. It is not tied to a congregant. So MICWA can be used by any congregant. The point that Commissioner Yoon picked up was the 3rd and the 4th floor. The 3rd and 4th floor, that this is where the religious imparting of information, that generally we have seen these kind of spaces. We have seen them associated with synagogues or yeshivas that are tied to a specific congregation. Now, in this case, that's a very good point. Who will be overseeing that part of it? And is that universal across all
Right.
All congregants? And if not, then why such a huge space? And why even that space? I guess that begs that question. Why even that space? Because we have seen the arguments made by applicants that in these congregations, you need to have these spaces for families to discuss. Why not there? Why here? And if it is going to be not a universal Judaic kind of imparting, if it's going, and these tend to be more congregational based, why that? So I think there's a huge question regarding the need for the 3rd and the 4th floor and the nexus between that and the MICWA. And given that the privacy is paramount, and separation of men and women. So I think more I listen to my colleague and more I feel that I think beyond the mikvah, there really should not be anything considered. And you haven't provided adequate information to that.
I just had a question. Does the elevator go to the bottom floor, to all floors?
Yes,
That
it
seems
goes from
really,
cellar all the way to the bulkhead.
so that seems to be in contrast to most of the mikvahs that we've had that had separate entrances and exits that there, so the women and men would not meet each other at any point.
Well, I think the
No,
mikvahs
no,
are
no.
all women.
The mikvah is all women.
But the elevator goes from the mikvah to the top.
There is,
So how do you separate? That's what you're saying. How do you
That's-
lock it so it doesn't hit the women's floor downstairs?
so there are two sets of elevators.
Oh.
And I think the first elevator that you, right at the entryway, which I'm being told is the administrative entryway, that would be the elevator that would be used by men to go up and down,
Okay,
everything. And the one that is interior, that is closer to the lobby from the mikvah, that would be used by the women, and that has not been clarified. I'm just reading the plan and I'm guessing that's what it is, but it's
stops
a
at the
very good
second
question.
floor, or
It
It
stops
stops-
on, it stops in the cellar, ground floor, second floor. No, I do not know whether it stops on the third floor because third floor is men.
No,
So it
doesn't.
should
Oh.
not stop on the third floor.
So maybe
It should
that is
just
very
then stop on the
designated.
fourth floor. Maybe that's a designated women. I don't know if it stops on the third floor. I didn't check the plan thoroughly on
It
that,
doesn't appear to.
on the third
looking.
floor.
Yeah.
But those need to be clarified as to the separation. And again, these are things that are adding to the bulk and there's no need for it. And I don't think anyway.
Ms.
okay.
Benke,
Yeah,
Director Benke has her hand up.
I just wanted to note that although the project didn't trip any thresholds for parking, they did provide a transportation analysis that does based on an existing survey, a survey of an existing mikvah. So that is in the EAS, and any parking study should make sure that it's consistent and it matches the information we already have.
I think the study then, if they are considering the third floor and fourth floor, which is non-MEQA related, that study also needs to be provided. There needs to be then two separate sets of study. And I think what I'm gathering from my fellow commissioners, we are extremely skeptical about the additional non-MEQA related uses that has been proposed on the third and the fourth floor. Okay. I did read out Commissioner Shetta's comments, right? Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Item number 25, 2024-53BZ, 8903 57th Avenue, Queens.
Okay, we received proof of service of initial filing and hearing notices. Community Board has voted to approve this project. Now, the document that was submitted by the Community Board also states that the approval is based on signage be placed on White Castle's Queens Boulevard entrance and exit to benefit drivers and pedestrians. Did receive a letter of objection, and the person who sent this objection letter said will be present at the hearing to present their objection. So this is this application has been before us many times under the ZEO special permit. Now it is coming under the new special permit. So this is an application for a special permit for an accessory drive-through for an eating and drinking establishment pursuant to the new special permit, which is zoning resolution section 73-311 on the subject site that has been operating since 1996 pursuant to the prior drive-through. So this is really like an extension of term, but because it's a new special permit, it is a new application. And the last time the board had heard it was in 2019. And the applicant is not proposing any changes to the operation. They're just kind of some minor changes to the layouts. Specifically, like there's a walkway that is being proposed from 57th Avenue frontage to the building entrance. And I think this is affecting the ADA parking because the prior approval had 2 ADA parking spaces. Based on the revised plan, I think there is 1. So the applicant needs to make sure that it is complying with the required number of ADA parking spaces that is being provided. Moving to the findings of 73,311. Finding A is as part of the prior grant, the applicant is continuing to provide 10 reservoir spaces. With regards to finding 2, as I stated, this operation has been at this site since 1996. So it's a, I don't think there will be any issues with regards to meeting this finding because prior boards have reviewed it and it has been operating well within the conditions and the layout of the site plan. However, the applicant needs to provide some clarity. Prior board had required only right turn exit from both exits, Queens Boulevard and 57th Avenue. I did not see any set of photos for the interior site lot conditions. So the applicant needs to provide photos of these existing signs. And also it needs to be indicated on the plan that there is only right turn move that is allowed upon exit from 57th Avenue and from Queens Boulevard. Also, the applicant should put stop line and put a stop sign for vehicles exiting from the drive-through and especially along the Queens Boulevard exit that is missing. And this stop sign can be either at the exit point of Queens Boulevard or it can be another one, which can be right where the building ends before it steps into Queens Boulevard. Queens Boulevard, that's a service road, very busy, active service road. With regards to finding C, as I mentioned, both Queens Boulevard and 57th are very active thoroughfare. There are large shopping malls along both of these street frontages. With regards to finding D, applicant didn't provide a lumen plan or an AVC plan, so I'm not sure why that was not provided. So the applicant needs to provide that. And it was not clear from the documents provided the proposed hours of operation for the drive-through and the restaurant, so please provide that clarification. With regards to finding E, there is an existing 5-foot-high PVC fence on top of a 3-foot-high brick wall. And if I recall, prior board had required noise reduction signs to be mounted along the parking lot, especially abutting the residential lot line. Again, in the absence of these interior lot line photos, applicant needs to ensure that those signs are existing and provide photos of those signs and indicated in the plan about that these signs have been placed. In addition to this, prior board also had conditions regarding graffiti and I noticed from one of the plans of one of the photographs that's been submitted, there's graffiti on the PVC fence. So please look into that. Also from the photos that were provided, there are dumpsters that are located outside the trash enclosure. So overall, applicant needs to provide more photos for the lot line condition. And I also found that the landscaping to be a bit sparse. So need to provide more planting, and we are right around the corner with the planting season, so that can all start. There are no violations on this site. Vice Chair Shibata.
Thank you, Chair. That's very thorough. I do want to clarify, I believe that they stated that they're open 24 hours, 7 days a week, but they didn't specify as to whether or not that means also the drive-through is open for those hours.
Okay. Yeah.
They did provide a schedule for the trash pickup, but they didn't provide times. And considering the location, I would like to know that these aren't going to be too late at night. Other than that, I have nothing else to add to your comments.
Yeah, the drive-through, I think hours, I remember the board was very specific and they did provide, I'm sorry, not drive-through, the garbage pickup. So they provided two sets of time for garbage pickup. One for the regular trash and the other one was for the recycle.
They
right?
provided days, they just didn't say what time during the day.
Oh,
So it'll be
okay.
Sunday, it was like Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday
Right.
for one for recycle and trash was another time. I can get the specifics if you.
Need to, no, you're right. They did provide the date, not the time, yeah.
So yes, they said on trash pickup be Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. Recycling container would be Sunday, Monday, Wednesday.
Right.
I'd just like to know how
What hours?
what hours,
Okay,
so.
range of hours, yeah. Great, thank you. Commissioner Otley Brown?
I have no additional question for this case.
Thank you. Let me read Commissioner Shetta's comments. Provide an up-to-date engineer's letter that addresses lighting and sound as the one provided by High Point is from 2020. Please include analysis performed to justify conclusions in the letter. If the menu board sound analysis is based on an AVC system, please add a note to the plan to state that AVC should be on all times. Provide a lumen spread diagram with lighting units, location, and model specification shown on the plan. Okay. 53. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Commissioner Yoon.
Thank you. The only thing I wanted to add is the site, it appears that you could not turn left if you wanted to. It doesn't mean you don't need signage, but given the way Queens Boulevard is set up, there's a median and you have to turn right onto the service road. And then on the other side, it's a one-way block. So just for site awareness, it is impossible to turn left without breaking a lot of laws.
Right.
I had no other comments.
Yes, I agree with you. I think this was a concern the community board had, and that is why the sign was placed. I think I'm actually looking at the prior board condition. C1 signage, dense landscaping, many boards shall be maintained and inaudible beyond property line. Turn the radio off sign within parking, no loud noise, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. in the drive-through. 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. in the drive-through, trash pickup 3 times a week, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday. Routine rodent pest control, free of debris and graffiti. Those were the conditions I have as part of the 2019. But and the 1996 original condition grant had a condition saying right-hand turn only on 57. So point well taken. Commissioner Yoon. Okay. Yep.
Item number 26, 2024 57 BZ, 136 39th Avenue, Queens.
Okay, we received proof of service of initial filing and proof of hearing notices. Committee board has voted to approve this application. We also received 2 letters of support, and I think maybe both of them are have ownership interest on this property. So this is an application for a special permit pursuant to zoning resolution section 73-44 to permit reduction of required accessory off-street parking spaces for ambulatory diagnostic and treatment healthcare facilities used at the subject site. The site is developed with a 12-story commercial office building with accessory parking spaces. One thing I just wanted to point out that the zoning district is C4-3. So the applicable zoning resolution section in this case for the parking is 36-21. So DOB objection sheet and the statement of facts on page 2 needs to be revised accordingly. Statement of facts states that 59 accessory parking spaces on the first paragraph on page 1, which is contrary to the certificate of occupancy. So applicant, please clarify, because, and throughout the document, I saw 2 different sets of accessory parking space numbers being used, 61, 59. So please clarify and be consistent. So this application has been before the board. This site has been before the board for various variances, bulk variances back in 70s and in back in 2000. It was allowed to extend into a 12-story building, and then there was another variance was to allow a community facility use, and for that a waiver of parking. So the applicant now it's stating that that community facility use has vacated the site, and that space needs to be occupied, and they have had difficulty marketing this site as a commercial space. And so the applicant is proposing to locate a use group, Roman numeral 3B, medical office use on these vacant floors, floors 3 to 5, and is therefore requesting a reduction of parking for ambulatory diagnostic facility. And so it would be a proposed reduction of 54 parking spaces. The chart provided in the statement of fact, page 9, should include the number of parking spaces permitted through BSA variance and granted in 2000. Granted in 2000. It was reduced. The parking was reduced to 61 spaces. Also correct the number of parking spaces to 61. Again, as I said, I saw different sets of numbers floating throughout the documents, unless there has been a reduction in the number of spaces as stated in the certificate of occupancy. And if so, please clarify why. With regards to findings of 73-44, we received an affidavit of good faith from the property owner. We also received a letter from a broker stating the reason why replacing the community facility floors on 3rd to 5th was difficult. I found this information very helpful. And I would say, given the location that I'm familiar with, I would tend to agree with that. The footprint of the building is not I would just say, given the current market conditions and other things, it may be a difficult and a challenging period for a office space. With regards to the parking study, so all I want to say, I found the study to be helpful. Even a business school office use, that would be the permitted uses on this site, would have required a parking waiver. Only school use does not have a parking requirement. So the uses that the business, the realtor was looking at were these uses. So any of those with parking requirement and a parking waiver would have been required. And this is a building that is existing with a set of parking. And at that time, waiver was granted for the parking for a community facility use. Also, the area is well served by transit. There's subway, LIRR, and it is a bus hub. There are several bus lines, and nearby there is a large private parking lot, and just a block away there is a municipal parking lot. So given its location and the footprint of the existing space, which may not be a great place for a school operation that requires a bigger floor plate and other kind of spaces of assembly and gathering spaces, I think this request is reasonable. So I'm okay with that. Regarding the compliance chart, according to the statement in the chart that the flower boxes are not there because the sidewalk is in high congestion area, I would agree with that. So the applicant should revise the plans and provide some ways of showing that it is improving the sidewalk condition. Otherwise, I really have no comment on this case. I'm satisfied with this application. Vice Chair Shibata.
Thank you, Chair. I'm satisfied with this application.
Thank you. Commissioner Otley Brown?
I actually have a question about the parking study. Being that the as existing was determined based on the surveys that they themselves, the applicant themselves said had a very low response rate. I'm wondering if they could somehow give us another way of measuring what the parking is as existing using other benchmark analyses, like maybe secret, statistics, in order to tell us what the as existing would be. And the reason why I asked that is because they got responses from 18 employees, 9 visitors, and they said that only 7 people park in the garage each day. But one of the responses they noted said that it's too difficult to park in the garage. And so I was wondering, why would somebody find it difficult? Is it that there is no attendant and there's a gate and you need a key access? What's going on that it doesn't seem like it's open and available to everybody? And so, and it shouldn't just be employees. And so I needed more information about that as well to determine whether or not, even if it is a low response rate, it really is a valid indicator of how many spaces are actually occupied or would be occupied in the existing no change, so that this way that could be your benchmark for adding your demand onto it with the proposed. So I need a little bit more information on that to be there. That's my one question.
Okay. I don't think I have any comments now. I don't have any comments on this from Commissioner Sheta. Commissioner Yoon?
Thank you. I also had a similar question as Commissioner Otley Brown. It appears from photographs and from having walked by this building a number of times that the parking lot is not public, first of all. So if you're to bring in an ambulatory diagnostic facility, where are patients parking? How would it operate to serve patients that come? Here you can see the two bays. Based on the plans, I think only the left one accesses the car lift and the right one may be a loading dock. But some clarification on that would be helpful for me. Let's see. All right, so some sense of the garage operation, it's approved as attended parking. Is there actually an attendant? Is there a way to survey the actual number of cars in the spaces because of the low survey count? Can you provide interior photos of the garage and the parking, the existing garage and parking? Let's see, the drawings, and here's just some kind of typos or technical things. The drawings show the 6th floor as a community center. The parking table and the rent roll show it as offices, so please make your drawings consistent with the rest. I picked up the same discrepancies between 61 spaces provided and 55 spaces provided. I believe the 55 spaces is reference to what would be required if the BSA grants this parking special permit. But please be very clear, because it was confusing in the statement of facts.
Yeah.
On page 12, when you're quoting the zoning resolution, I think there's a typo stating that no change to uses listed in PRC A3, but it should be PRC A2. Also, when I calculate the parking, I get 40 required for the medical office, 34 for the office use. The total being 74 required. Throughout the document, there are also mentions of 75 being required. The community board report also notes 74 and 54 instead of 75 and 55. So please double check that and make it consistent throughout the document. I think that's all I have.
Thank you. I just want to go back and read the comment on the first, which one, Hillside Avenue.
Recalling 2023-58 BZ, 197-18 Hillside Avenue, Queens.
Yeah, I
Wait.
forgot to read,
Wait,
Oh, sorry, I'm
Anachita's
sorry,
comment.
wait, don't. Ms. Prenga?
Yeah,
I apologize for interrupting. Did Commissioner Sheta's comments on item number 26-2024-57 BZ, what were they read out loud? I don't recall them. Commissioner Sheta,
that is the case we are hearing right now, right?
39th Avenue.
Right, and that is
We're going back to Hillside, that's. the
we're going
comment
back
you
to
made.
Hillside.
I think the chair had stated that Commissioner Sheta did not leave any comments on the 39th Avenue.
39th.
Thank you, thank you. That's what I wanted to confirm. Thanks so much. Thanks. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now we're going back to recalling 2023-58 BZ.
No, I can
She's just
bring it
gonna
up.
state the comments during the public hearing.
No, let me state it now so that the
That's what I'm
applicant will be
saying.
prepared to.
197-18 Hillside Avenue, Queens.
Okay, so apologize, I should have read it out. Commissioner Sheta had a comment with regards to the hillside. According to the case manager, BSA only received revised documents for the DOT traffic information, lumens unrealistic values, and adding a note saying AVC shall be kept on all times were not responded to. So similar to my comments. Okay.
Okay.
Don't make a statement.
And then the layover case?
Yes,
508, sorry, the decision case 508-80 BZ, 6220 14th Avenue, Brooklyn.
Unfortunately, we did not get any response from DEP. So we will need to defer this to April.
So we don't have anything, so
Yeah.
April, okay. Okay, so this concludes the review session for Tuesday, March 25th. We'll resume in 10 minutes.
11:30.
11:30.
Moved on.
I cannot
Or
like
move-
that.
Again,
That's something.
Ms. Matias, are we ready to proceed?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Matias, we are live, we are streaming, we are recording. You may proceed with today's public hearing.
Good morning. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals, public hearing for Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. We'll begin with the zoning calendar, continued hearing items. Item number 2023-12BZ, I'm sorry, that one's adjourned. Item number 21, 2023-58BZ, 197 Hillside Avenue, Queens.
Should be Mr. Dale. Okay.
Oops, was my. I should know this.
Hi, good afternoon, or good morning.
Good morning. Anyone else with you?
No, just myself today.
Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond to city board member questions?
I do so affirm.
Please state your name for the record and proceed to respond to the board's comments at review session.
Good morning, Todd Dale for the applicant. I did listen to the comments at review session. In response to the two items that you raised, Chair, we will definitely add the AVC note, noting that it will be on at all hours. Add that to the site plan or any plan where it's listed. And then we'll also indicate the light poles on the site plan that are currently only shown on the lumen study plan. Those are both quick fixes. We should be able to do that within a day or two, or as soon as the architects can get to it.
Oh, sorry, is there a note in the plan that says the lumen level will be kept to 2.0 at the property line?
To 2.2 at the property line?
2.0, no more than 2.0.
I don't believe there is, but we'll add it.
Okay, I will have our project manager send you a language that we have been using. So, and that should be included in the lumen sheet.
Okay, so we'll add the AVC note, the 2.0 language pending receipt from the board, and then we'll also indicate the light poles on the site plans as they are shown on the lumen plans. I believe that were the substantive comments from review session. I would just note as an update, you know, I know it's been the board's practice to keep these hearings open while we're waiting for DOT comments, but I would respectfully request that this matter, since it seems that most of the zoning issues have been resolved, be closed and set for a decision. It can be a few weeks forward. I would just note that this application was filed in September 2023. Most recent DOT comments received were on March 7th, a day after our most recent submission date. And those were 8 weeks after we had responded to the prior comments at the beginning of January. You know, I understand it's been the practice to wait for DOT review, but we've responded to DOT comments consistently. There's nothing within ZR 7303 or 73311 that mandates that a DOT letter or report. It's the board's discretion to request a report, and it's also the board, if a report is received, to give it due consideration. In this case, we haven't received a report. You know, the board can do what it will with the report, but at this point, just adjourning it for a hearing and then having to wait additional weeks after that for a decision is becoming detrimental to this project. For business decisions, since this is pending on nearly 18 months, it's reaching a point where we are going to need to proceed on the record or withdraw the application because of the time. And I just want to state clearly for the record that we very much appreciate all the efforts of the board, especially Ms. Benke and Ms. Ebanks-Chu, who have been great about turning things around and getting us information, but it's becoming an untenable situation to wait much longer. We're willing, you know, we're working on the next response to DOT. We're hoping to have it in by the middle of next week, and we're willing to wait for DOT to respond to that, but we would request that this be closed because realistically, we would also just big picture say, we're not sure what else can be done on this site to respond to comments. You know, from a use perspective, we provided the acoustic fencing and the landscaping and the light poles. From a transportation perspective, you know, this is a 1,700 square foot building. It can't really be reduced in size any further, or just can't be used for the operation that's intended. We're providing 7 accessory parking spaces, which are in excess of the 6 spaces that are required, you know, if you didn't use the waiver. So we're providing extra spaces. We have 14 reservoir spaces shown, which are more than the 10 spaces that are required. And additionally, these reservoir spaces have been calculated based on a 20-foot space, which is in excess of a standard parking spot based on what DOT has requested. You know, Hillside Avenue is 4 lanes of active traffic at this site with a turn lane. And additionally, there's also a 5th and a 6th lane that are used for parking. So it's a wide street. There should be no traffic back up here. And we just realistically don't know what else could be done, you know, for this site to change it while we wait for DOT comments. So, you know, I appreciate the board listening to this. I understand that, you know, there's a lot of effort that's gone into this. And as I said before, I really appreciate the board staff. But at this point, we would request that this matter be closed and set for a decision, even if it's 6 to 8 weeks out, so we can provide the DOT response, leaving the record open. But we just want to minimize any additional delay for an application that was filed in September 2023.
Okay. Here are my thoughts. You know, and I would say we have, and I know my team has been working very hard to get these sign-offs. However, I do respect what DOT is trying to do, and we have had discussions with DOT as to what our expectation and what the findings requires. And so one thing I did notice that that this parking space, this site is providing more than the 10 required, minimum 10 required reservoir spaces. And what I would, you know, I'm, you know, as Vice Chair Shibeta also suggested, and I think our council also, and I think I'm willing to close it with a condition that it meets with the finding of which is the finding.
Page
73,
311.
Yeah, 73, the B, that the drive-through facility will not create or contribute to serious traffic congestion and will not unduly inhibit surface and pedestrian flow. And that DOT will have the full right to bring it down, bring it for compliance, and we will be hearing it. I do want you to add a note to your plan saying that there would be no spillover of any vehicles from the property blocking the sidewalk or the street. There shall be no spillover. There should be no vehicles waiting at the sidewalk trying to join the drive-through. So that should be added to the note, and to minimize any pedestrian and vehicular conflict. We will send you a language. I think we received a similar language for another case from DOT, and we can kind of apply that for this also. And the other condition being that condition B. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Council?
Let's go to the public.
Okay, let's go to the public then.
Ready?
No, I'm waiting for her to put the screen up. The case that we're currently discussing is 2023-58BZ 197-18 Hillside Avenue, Queens. Should you wish to discuss, dial 669-254-5252. At the prompt, you'll enter the Weber ID number 161-378-7885 and press the pound sign. The next prompt, you'll press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you will press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute as you're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already and wish to participate, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the little hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you are recognized, you will have 3 minutes in which to discuss.
Okay. While we are waiting for public to call in, how much time will you need to make these corrections? I know we have to give you some language.
I would say that, I mean, as soon as we get the specific language from the board, we could turn that around very, very quickly. I would say, you know, just to give the board time to confirm the notes, maybe the middle of next week we could submit by, the end of next week, if that's enough time.
And can we schedule, I would like to schedule this for May. Does
That
that?
would be great. And, you know, as I said, we'll have the, you know.
No,
the
you're
next
going
meeting.
away on vacation, so that's why I'm being mindful of your vacation time. So if we schedule this for May, that would work for you?
May would be great. And as I said, you know, we did receive the DOT comments March 7th, and the response should be in shortly. And, you know, that may resolve everything, you know, and we'll be good to go. But May should be fine. I appreciate it. And I do appreciate the board's consideration. And I just want to state again, clearly for the record, that we appreciate the commissioner's view, and the board staff has been great at working with us on this application. It's really appreciated.
Thank you.
A motion to go.
I then make a motion to close
Chair.
with the
Shannon?
records
Sorry.
open for DOT submission, DOT and revision to the plans as discussed today, and any follow-up comments that may come up from DOT. So that gives you enough time to put everything together for a May submission. And if you need a little bit of extra time for the May submission to respond to DOT comments, please let our project manager know so that we can work it out.
We definitely.
The submission date for May,
April 20th.
it's April 20th. So if you need a few days extra or something,
Sorry, April 17th, sorry.
April
For me.
17th, so you have, there's a little bit of room for you to get to the May 7th. Okay.
Perfect. We will definitely do that. Thank you.
May 5, 6.
Oh, May 5, 6. So you have a couple, so if you need an extra week, let us know.
We'll do. Thank you.
Motion to close, Chair Shonda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
Thank you.
And please provide a very comprehensive cover letter stating exactly what the changes are, response to board's comments, respond to DOT comments, and what those changes are. So it makes it easy for us to quickly review the document.
For sure. And we'll definitely include the bubbled plans too, so it makes it easier to review the plans.
Absolutely, because we are giving you a shorter time period to for us to review, provide a much more detailed submission, makes it
Will
easy.
do. Thank you.
Okay.
Item number 23, 2024-42BZ, 2031 Eastern Parkway Extension, Brooklyn.
This be Adam.
Adam Seidel.
Is Adam Seidel. Yes, I've let him.
Angel Rama.
Yes, I've let both of them in to join as a panelist.
Weston Walker.
Oh,
Good morning, Mr. Seidel.
Hello, good morning.
Mr. Walker, Weston Walker, part of your team?
Yes, we should have a few people. We brought the whole crew to answer questions. I'm hopeful that there won't be too many, but we brought everybody.
So you have Walker, Rama, anyone else, sir?
Larry Gordon from the Doe Fund may be on. Dan Cobley may be on.
See Larry Gordon, and go slowly,
Yeah, I
Larry
do see
Gordon,
Larry Gordon.
go ahead.
And Dan Cobley, Cobleigh.
I don't see Dan, probably.
No, I do not. I do
Okay,
see one with a number, last number is 1752.
well, we should have it covered among this group. I think this is sufficient.
Okay, so could everyone unmute, please? Mr. Walker, Mr. Gordon? Mr. Walker, you're still muted. Thank you. Okay, everyone raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
Yes,
Okay, please state your name for the record and please state your name for the record and proceed to respond to the board's comments at review session.
Adam Zidell. So if I have it correct, I think that there were two main substantive points raised at the review session. The first was with respect to a diagram for the acute L-shaped scenario. So I think that this is a point of confusion. If you view our response to the specific questions raised from the last hearing, the question was, or the issue was, through a narrative description, explain whether an acute L-shaped building with a leg along the Eastern Parkway extension could reduce the overall building height without reducing any units. Through a narrative description. So in the further revised statement of facts and findings, on page 14, we provide that narrative explanation as to why the acute L-shaped scenario is infeasible. And I'm happy to have the architects discuss that in further detail now, if you find what was described in the narrative in the further revised statement of facts and findings insufficient. I think the point of confusion from the review session earlier is that the paragraph immediately preceding the narrative description of the acute L-shaped scenario mentions in item 21, which is a test fit. That is a separate diagram and test fit from our original submission, which was showing a separate scenario, which is why a building on the southern portion of the site on the other side of the train tracks was infeasible. So in this most recent review session, somebody raised the point of, well, there's this diagram mentioned as item 21, why don't you provide that since it should address the acute L-shaped building? In fact, that was a separate diagram for a separate scenario. And the request from the prior hearing was for a narrative description of the acute L-shaped scenario, which we did provide.
Okay, I see that now. Thank you.
Yeah.
For the clarification.
I went
Okay.
back, note, I remember that's what was discussed, the narrative discussion. For the
No,
LK.
I accept the narrative description. I misread the item 21 reference. Sometimes a track changes is helpful in the case of these long statement of facts, because I probably just glossed over it and forgot that I had read it before. So thank you for the explanation.
Understood. Okay, and then the second point that I picked up in the earlier review session was with respect to the mechanical space and whether or not they would be exempt from a floor area rate. Now, we had that discussion internally with our team, and we thought it was best to proceed in a conservative fashion, because what we want to avoid is we get further on down the road and the Department of Buildings looks at this and they say, oh, well, this should be floor area. And then we have to come back to the board and ask for additional floor area. Really, it's sort of a semantic discussion, because the bulk requirements are going to govern the envelope of the building. The building is not going to get any bigger as a result of these being, floor area or not floor area. All we're trying to do is be conservative and treat them as being floor area now. And then, that way, if the DOB disagrees later on, we don't have to come back and request, additional floor area with everything that would come with that.
Yeah, I understand that. The reason And you're right, the bulk of the building, the look of the building is not going to change with the change in the number. It's a really a theoretical thing that is there on paper. Just for you to know, the reason we do ask for those changes is because everything that we do sets a precedence. And it also, in future, if there is any development where to be built and they were going to in that area, and they would then say, well, the board did allow for a 7.5 and I'm asking for a 7.5 also. So why not? So that's why even though it's a number and it's visibly not being represented, anything, it's not going to change visually. It is just a way for the board to kind of make sure we kind of use some parameters to hold certain where needed, where appropriate, unless the applicant can justify otherwise. So that is one of the reasons. But I understand what you're saying. Try your best. If not, I understand. I get it.
Okay.
And this is very, because what you are looking at is at a very preliminary stage. And as Commissioner Otley Brown pointed out, there will be a lot of value engineering that is going to be happening throughout the funding process. So things may change and shift. So
That was Commissioner.
Commissioner Otley, there was.
sorry, Commissioner Yoon. I'm sorry, Commissioner Yoon. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
And Commissioner Yoon stated that, and that is based on her experience. And as I've said, I've also seen that happen. So you're erring on the conservative side. I understand that. Okay.
Okay. I mean, you know, we're under a significant time constraint, and we want to do everything possible to expeditiously move forward with closing this and, you know, getting a vote on the calendar. What do you recommend? I mean,
you don't need to do anything.
Okay.
Just, I think just response to the comment that were raised for
Okay.
now.
Understood.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, but I think one thing that Commissioner Yoon did point out in your statement of fact, that language of that the 10-foot 6-inch high is anything lower than that will be
9'10".
huh?
9'10".
Sorry, 9'10" would would be a detriment to the proper living condition and such. The quality of life argument, I fully agree with her. Not that I should be saying it's like my apartment size is height is just about 8 feet. So, so yes, 9 foot would be very wonderful, but I'm surviving. It hasn't affected my lifestyle yet. So I just want to be very careful in making such statements. I understand your lofty goals and it falls within that, but that's not what the board is looking for. But I think overall, we were all satisfied with the response that's been provided and what you have stated here. We are fine with it. But as a formality, we have to go to the public for a hearing. For them to, because it's still an open application. So we have to go to the public for them to respond. And then we'll come to the next step after the public testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, the case that we're currently discussing is 2024-42BZ, 2031 Eastern Parkway Extension, Brooklyn. Should you wish to comment on this case, please dial 669-254-5252. At the prompt, you'll enter the Weber ID number 161-378-7885 and press the pound sign. At the prompt after that, you'll press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you'll press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute as you're calling in on the phone. And if in the Zoom room are ready and wish to participate, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the little hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you are recognized, you'll have 3 minutes in which to discuss.
I think I just want to make sure from an environmental point of view, Ms. Benke, where are we?
We still have open noise, air quality, community facility, open space, shadows, and a DAC assessment is forthcoming. We hope to have responses from the agencies soon, hopefully within the next few weeks.
Okay.
Spranga's hand is up.
Yes, Ms. Prenga?
Hi, sorry, we did receive Parks Department comments. I hope you received them this morning
And,
on open space and shadows.
okay.
Right, but they had follow-up comments. that's
Yes,
what-
they had
yeah.
follow, it's still open. I just
Yeah.
hope that they received it. Thank you.
Thanks.
So, nobody called in. I'm going to make a recommendation that we close the application. And no, but the record needs to be kept open because we do not have a sign off on the environmental review. And so all the comments that Parks has responded to, your team needs to respond back. And we can, and until we get the SECRA sign off, we cannot vote it. So we need the SECRA sign off to vote this application. So it's in your best interest to put your focus on the SECRA part of it and respond. And I know my team is doing its best in getting the responses, and we will continue to do that and work with you. But I think the application as it stands, you don't need to make any revisions unless something comes up that as part of the noise or air quality, that would require a note to be added to the plan. So then those plans need to be corrected. And Ms. Prenga will guide you in terms of which are the plans, what kind of notes need to be added.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. So motion to close?
Chair Shonda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta. Sorry, Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
Okay, and based on where the SECRA status is, I know you have a May deadline, right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What's your deadline, May?
Correct, May.
May
To have
when?
the resolution in hand.
By when? End of May?
End of May, end of May.
Okay. Okay. So we have a hearing in May, early May. And what both our council and I have been discussing this, and what I would like to do is put a hold for April 7th and 8th for a decision, provided we have all the SECRA sign off. If not, then we will hold the hearing on May 5th or 6th.
Great. And we'll, of course, do what we can to expedite the SECRA between now and then.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much and wish you all the best, and we will see you on your groundbreaking.
Thank you. We appreciate it very much.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you,
Take care.
team. Bye.
Move on.
Yeah.
New cases, item number 24, 2024 51 BZ, 1983 54th Street, Brooklyn.
Okay, this would be Mr. Lopez.
Alexia
Oh,
Landsman.
this is Alexia. Okay. Yes, let her
And-
join in as a panelist. Is there anyone else from your team?
Good afternoon. Yes, there is Richard Bell. We have Lynn Friedman. We have a few others. We have Dominique Dahl in the waiting room.
Dominic, yeah, Dominic Casale.
We have Michael K, I believe, Crane from IMC.
How do you pronounce the last name? Michael, I have.
Crane.
R-I-E-M,
Yes, exactly. Crane.
okay. And who is the other person you mentioned?
There's Dominic
What's the last name?
Casale.
Okay. And
And then I believe Michael, who just joined. Michael is Patrick as joining as well. Yeah, so
Pat.
Pat. Exactly. Pat.
Paradise.
Yes. And then there is a Yehuda Lander in the waiting room.
Okay.
Lipa Klein should be in the waiting room as well.
Okay.
And Moses Gutman.
Moses Gutman.
And finally, Kevin Corte. Big team.
Think everyone should be there.
Everyone, please unmute.
I don't see, I'm so sorry. I don't see Yehuda and Yehuda Landerer and Lipa Klein. Are they in the waiting room by chance? And Moses Gutman?
I just somehow I did change them to panelist, and Yehuda should be there in the no. Okay.
And Moses Gutman.
Uh,
Okay. Lipa Klein.
Somehow I'm not sure why Gutman is and Lipa. I
Ms. Landsman is a Yoel Schwimmer?
Yes.
Okay, I've tried to make him panelist. I think he has to accept.
Yeah, both same thing with Lipa Klein and also Moses Gutman. They need to accept.
There you go. Okay.
Lipa Klein needs to accept.
There we go.
And Moses Gutman also.
I'm sorry, Ms. Land, is that it? There's a Moses Gutman. Yeah, so Lipa Klein had accepted and went back. Hold on.
Oh, my video's on.
So we have Alexia, Michael Crane, Richard Lobel, Dominic Casal, Kevin Corte, Lynn Friedman, Mose Gutman, Pat Paradis. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing the name properly. Yehuda Landerer, Yoel Schwimmer, but I don't see Lipa.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I keep letting Lipa Klein in and then she keeps going back. She should be in now.
There we go.
Everyone that's part of the applicant team, please unmute and start your camera.
So just generally for applicants on the team, if you're able to unmute and start your camera, then you can do so now.
Yes, I can start swearing. I can swear you in.
Is Moshe Friedman also part of the team?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we've got him on.
We're one.
Okay.
As it should be.
Okay.
Yoel Schwimmer, can you
I don't have my camera. I don't have my camera, so.
Mr. Klein, I hope you're not driving, sir. If you're driving, I would suggest you pull over or otherwise not participate. We don't want you to have an accident, sir.
Okay,
Thank you. So is everyone ready?
yes.
Please unmute. Mr. Mandara. Mr. Corte, please unmute. The faster we do this, the faster we can move along. Thank you. Mr. Gutman, please. Thank you. Anyone else who is part of the team that has to unmute and hasn't unmuted?
Lipa Klein has an on.
Well, Mr. Klein is in the car driving and I told him to pull over. He doesn't, he cannot participate. Okay. Driving, I can't.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Okay, so raise your right hands. Thank you. Mr. Landera, do you hear me? Thank you. Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so the lead speakers, please state your name for the record and proceed to respond to the board's comments at review section.
Thank you, Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel PC, representing the applicant Mikvah of 20th Avenue. Chair, Commissioners, we attended the review session, of course, and are familiar with the board's comments. I'm going to start with some general discussion to address some of the board's overarching comments, and then the various professionals will be able to handle some of the specific questions. So, yes.
Say one thing before we start, and as I have listened to my fellow commissioners' comments, I'm going to make it very clear and simple. Either do this as a mikvah or as a mikvah. Don't mix the two things.
Yes, Chair.
Your application as with the two uses, from what I'm gathering, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to be able to give board the answers that we are looking for. And so I strongly would recommend just stick to the mikvah operation and no other secondary uses that are so unrelated to the mikvah operation and contrary to the whole purpose of mikvah, as it was so well explained in Ms. Friedman's document.
Thank you, Chair. The issue, of course, as far as the applicant is concerned, is that this is one use, which we'd be happy to explain and to provide, more importantly, evidence to the board to make them more certain in their decisions. So Mikvah of 20th Avenue is not new to this. There is a prior mikvah. The religious organization has been in existence since 2019. There is an additional mikvah that they operate, Mikvah Tahara Pesel Rivka, located at 437 Dale Hill Road, approximately a mile north of the property. That mikvah services over 50,000 visits annually. So when we talk about community facilities, which we often do and just use the term, this is truly a community facility, as in one that will definitely be servicing the community. There is merely too much in terms of demand and visits to that other mikvah to operate that solely without additional support, which is why, as the chair and commissioners noted, the community board and the land use committee of Brooklyn Community Board 12 unanimously approved this. Again, of course, we need to go to the full board, but the land use committee approved this. And adjacent neighbors to the property, as a matter of record, showed up at the community board to speak in favor of this mikvah, which, as the chair and commissioners have noted, is an ambitious undertaking in terms of the bulk here. But the challenges which the chair and the commissioners have stated in terms of the fact that this is operating across sects of Judaism, that there are multiple sects and interests involved, that very aspect of the application, which caused the chair and the commissioners to question, well, how can you have one classroom teaching this, who's going to be teaching, et cetera, that very circumstances is what lends itself to this mikvah, as well as the accessory space, merely because you can't have this instruction, which is meant to affect all members of the community in areas which are vital to the practice of Judaism, in this case, the operation of a women's mikvah and purity and issues of cleanliness, which is mandated on a monthly basis, the usage thereof. The fact that this is something which is benefiting the entire community, which will serve over 4,000 families in the Mapleton area, that the community is united in this. And one of the things we intend to prove with evidence to be submitted, not today, but in supplemental submissions, understanding that we have a burden as an applicant, is that there are multiple sects of religious Judaism who not only utilize this mikvah, but who are, who view this as integral in terms of their opportunity to teach many, many families from different walks of life in terms of observant Judaism. So this is a community facility in the sense that many people will be coming together to use this mikvah, and the evidence that we will provide to the board is not merely that the spaces are secondary spaces, they're indeed vital spaces to allow for instruction of men and women at this site, at the facility, to demonstrate how the mikveh is used, impacts on daily life. And this is something which, the entire applicant team, the Board of Rabbis, the mikveh itself feel very strongly about. So again, we know we have to satisfy our burden. We have not done so to date. We apologize for that. I know that the chair commented that the programmatic needs statement was, excellent in some of its depiction in the basics of mikvot, which we understand the board is familiar with. But this is something, yes, please.
Only with regards to mikvah,
Yeah.
I think the document was very clear in terms of justifying the need for mikvah and the separation and the dry, wet circulation, all of that. The rest of it didn't fall in place.
Right, which is our fault. We need to provide the board with better evidence. We will do so. We're confident that we are able to do so because we've, as an applicant team, as you can imagine, we've been going through this for some time. But the fact remains that the law is clear in terms of the fact that accessory uses to a religious institution are equally entitled to deference from the board. And so to the extent that we can demonstrate, and we will, that the accessory uses that are proposed here in terms of education, classrooms, administration rooms, and importantly, rooms where private applicants can be ministered to and private visitors to the mikvah, we'll provide that evidence and we'll demonstrate that. We also understand, we also
I'm hearing this party going on outside on 20.
Outside, yeah.
Just give us a minute.
So just give,
I would like to rock it.
No, it's just too noisy.
There's a marching band walking right outside.
wow. That's a
And-
first,
Right, but we can't hear you, so give us just a second.
of course.
That was it was a float this morning I saw when it came across the thing. I think it's for the,
Do you know what the celebration is?
yeah, I thought it was, I can't remember.
Okay, I think we're at ROTC now, so all the music makers are gone.
Okay, good.
Of course, that's that.
I was in marching band.
Okay, so again, Chair, Commissioners, we did hear all the comments. We understand that much of this is driven by not merely the ritual baths themselves, but by spaces which, we've been asserting are part of the program. And the intention is twofold. Number one, we will demonstrate to the board through submission of evidence at supplemental hearings that this space is required for the operation of this facility. And number two is, to the extent we can't do that, or to the extent that there are modifications which are necessary in terms of the bulk, that's going to make the board feel more comfortable, we are amenable to that as well. As an applicant team, we will make sure to effectuate that. So that's just kind of like the opening discussion. And we'd be happy to have Lynn Friedman talk a little bit about just the nature of the program at this building, as well as Dominic Casal to talk about some of the design elements. I know there was a discussion about the fact that mikvot are typically all about secrecy, and design in that respect should reflect that. But there's also discussions in Jewish law and otherwise that mikvahs, particularly in a new area, are supposed to be a centerpiece in terms of the religious practice of the area, and so should be celebrated and should be part of an important structure. So at the chair's discretion, I'd have Lynn speak for a few minutes and then address some specific architectural questions.
Ready? Yeah, I'm gonna defer to.
Okay, I have a unique perspective on this project. Not only am I a design professional, but I'm also a rabbi and I have ordination in mikvot. So I know a little bit about what's going on. Borough Park is a unique, Mapleton is a unique area, is that it's not one sect of Judaism or Hasidic courts. It is a conglomeration of many, many, what we call kehilot, congregation, that have come together and are in agreement on the need of the mikvah over here. And the problem being, because you're going across, you want a common thread. The education that you're going to give the young couples that are coming here has to come as a unified voice. So all the rabbis in the neighborhood have come together to make this a centerpiece of education of mikvaot. This is part of the charter of this facility, to teach the laws of family purity and together with the mikvah. It is one mandate. And therefore, this building is needed to be all in one place. So as Borough Park is growing, it's one of the densest, I think almost in the world, other than Jerusalem, it is one of the densest Jewish communities in the world. And they have to come up with a way of bringing together many, many congregations in order to teach this material with a unified voice.
So I'll step in and first thank the chair and the other commissioners for your compliments on our work. We do spend a lot of time and it's nice that it's recognized. We tried here and you'll find that we did a very clear explanation of mikvah itself, particularly women's mikvahs. And I'll go through it quickly, but it was also important. Staff had asked for an explanation of what the connection between education and mikvah in a women's mikvah is, and we tried very hard. I'll mention the page numbers. You can go through the whole thing if anybody has the time and read through it. It's, like I said, a lot went into it. On page 15, we talked about the subject of family purity. It's called in Hebrew, Taharas HaMishpacha, which is about the laws of family purity. They are extensive laws. They apply to women and men. It's the principal foundation of Jewish family life. I'm going to read to you from page 15 quickly. A married woman's immersion in a mikveh is an essential foundation of Taharas HaMishpacha. As with every area of Jewish practice, the observance of Taharas HaMishpacha involves a set of detailed laws, namely the when, what, and how of observance. Both women and men must study and understand the laws of Taharas HaMishpacha through constant study and review, privately and or in group classes. The education and study of laws of Taharas HaMishpacha, which cover the detailed laws and requirements of mikveh and mikveh use, should ideally be located in the same building as the mikveh itself. These laws are the foundation of the mikveh and immersion process, and on-site education provides the opportunity for hands-on experiential learning, allowing women and men to gain practical knowledge on site. Therefore, the classrooms in the new mikveh building are of vital importance to both women and men to study and learn the laws surrounding the monthly cycle, preparation for mikveh, mikveh use, and interpersonal relations with each other as it relates to marriage and family life through the lens of Jewish law and practice. And it continues on. Later on page 38, we start describing the program. The program for this building will list all the spaces needed for a women's mikveh and to provide Jewish religious education and counseling in the Jewish religious laws of Taharas HaMishpacha and mikveh for both men and women. As described earlier, as we spoke before, these laws of family purity, Taharas HaMishpacha, apply to women and men, wives and husbands, and is the principal foundation of Jewish family life. Married life is not the sole responsibility of the husband or the wife, both together. Therefore, classes and counseling need to be provided for both women and men. Both women and men must study and understand the laws of Taharas HaMishpacha through constant study and review. Again, we talked about that. This is something that is a foundation. It's not something they learn in school. It's something that begins when a couple becomes engaged and is carried throughout married life. It's not something that can just be learned once and that's it. So that's why this particular building has both. And then page 38 continues on to talk about from there the kinds of spaces that are needed for both the education and the mikveh use itself. Just to point out to you, if you're looking for where things are, page 70, we continue a little further with a description of the program services and the kinds of classes that are given. You had asked about the separation of the spaces and all the different circulation. We saw right away when we saw the plans initially that with many entrances and exits, and I'm sure Dominic will explain more in detail, their office, IMC, the architects, prepared a circulation diagram, which we have on pages 65 to 68. It's kind of color-coded, and they did that, and we explained a little more detail what that is to show the various entrances and exits and why each one of them is critically important for this particular building. Regarding utilization, I believe the chair had asked for utilization tables. We have schedules, pages 87 to 90, and utilization, pages 93 to 97. We'll obviously adjust those if the building is modified in any way and show all of those schedules and so on. Questions?
Yeah,
yes.
I did have a more general question, which was that if this use is an accessory use to the mikveh, I think I need to see proof that it's clearly incidental to and customarily found in connection with this principal use. And I also had a question about whether or not the classes that you state, the classes in family life and married life, are also accommodated within a synagogue's educational program, or if it's only associated with the mikveh program. And do you by any chance have any examples of other existing mikvahs that have managed to combine the mikveh process with the education within one building?
And I want to just further add to that question. Where does this education occur currently? We have seen projects with synagogues come in with extensive counseling space specifically for couples, young couples, teaching the ways of family life in synagogues. In these communities, where is this education currently being done? And why is it now being proposed to be unified here? And then a follow-up is how, given that this is such a dense conglomeration of various congregants that have different observance of mikveh, I presume, and probably slightly different interpretations, how do you deal with those differences in your education and your counseling to all of the people that are coming? We're asking this not because we don't agree that a mikveh is crucial to the practice, but why are we seeing these educational spaces here for the first time?
Start just from the standpoint of what we can accomplish now and versus what might be more efficiently accomplished on submission. Because what we'd like to do is provide the board with a more thorough analysis, not only in terms of institutionally why it's a vital part of the program here to have an educational component to the mikveh, for if there's not a number of different institutions which allow for this space, it doesn't mean that it's not a vital need of the institution, meaning that we already have a building. This is not a new religious corporation. We have a building that already services 50,000 visitors. And so to the extent that the community has come together and found that education is lacking and that it needs to be provided, I think that we can still allege that that's a vital role of the mikveh as a religious organization. But I think with regards to the other aspects of why this is more efficiently done here versus at a synagogue or somewhere off-site, I think a lot of it, and Lynn and Moshe can probably address this more clearly, is that much of the education involves the actual mikveh itself. And so it's best demonstrated on the site where the mikveh, which again, I think one of the reasons the applicant team is so passionate about this is because these are vital laws to the practice of Judaism. And I know that the board typically is not in the business of dictating to a religious organization what they need in order to effectively practice their religion. So I would just ask Moshe and Lynn if you just want to talk about whether or not that's correct, about the important part of the importance is that it happened in this building and happened here.
Before you get to that, what to me is still not it's sitting in my mind is when Ms. Friedman mentioned that young couple this is a lifelong, and this is not a one-time thing. This is and it is for young couples to do it, and it's a very private thing, and it's for both husband and wife to understand it. If that is the case, why is there such a huge classroom where there will be so many different other non-related members who would be attending this? So I'm not convinced yet of what you're stating, because as Commissioner Otley Brown pointed out, and she has more years of experience in seeing standalone mikvahs. I have seen mikvahs associated with a school. That's the only one I have seen, and a mikvah with a synagogue. That's the only one I have seen. This is it is a case of first impression for me. And so far, the documents have not provided any supporting evidence to justify, this is a very common thing. If it is common, we have not seen it to date, right? And if it is happening in the city of New York, provide evidence of those, examples of those, and use those as case studies to back it up. I do not want this to become a situation where we're reviewing something which really has not been done by the board at all before, or does not exist in the city.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have a lot of difficulty getting there.
Chair, I think we're going to do this on submission, but I would just note two things. One, of course, is that the deference that's afforded religious institutions extends to mikvot as well, which is of this, which is one. So
I think the board has acknowledged that. Please
Okay.
don't repeat that. We have stated right at the beginning.
I just wanted to state it on the record, because I know it was discussed at the executive session, but I didn't know if it was discussed at hearings.
And the significance of mikvah, and we also understand the significance of religious education and its importance in the Jewish faith. But you still have to somehow flesh this out while meeting the findings of the zoning resolution. And so I want to see a discussion that's tying in accessory use and the findings of accessory use as you're going forward in order to justify the co-location of these two very important facets of Jewish religious life.
Understood. And we will provide that evidence. I'm happy to have Moshe and Lynn talk about this right now. I would note Exxon Corp versus BSA, 1987 case of great importance, which was decided by the appellate division, in which a review of accessory uses was provided. The inquiry at that point was that gas stations were more increasingly allowing for convenience stores as part of the gas station. BSA ruled at that point that that was not, because it was absent from the zoning resolution, was not a valid accessory use to a gas station. The applicant came in and demonstrated two things. The first is that the text of the zoning resolution did not exclude that as an accessory use, and so it was not specifically addressed, and also presented evidence to the board at the time that this was a valid accessory use, not merely in New York, but further afield as far as the jurisdiction of the court and in areas outside of New York City, and accepted that as evidence of a valid accessory use and one that was found in relation to the primary use. So again, not something that I think that we're going to fully vet and address at this point, but I just wanted to just enter that with the board so that we know our burden. We need to carry this, and we'll do that for the board. And if we can't do it, we're coming back and it's a different building in a large regard, but we get it. We understand that. Lynn, Moshe, I don't know if you wanted to talk about, or if the board would like us to forego this discussion, we're happy to move on.
Right, and I think if you're so convinced that these two uses need to be done, then all the analysis, the waivers that we were talking about, it needs to be analyzed for both of them and not just focused on mikvah primarily and wash off the rest of the uses. So, and this is concerning with regards to the parking. So
Oh,
that analysis has to be done very, very thoroughly. So I think based on that, it is incomplete.
understood.
And
I don't know, would the board want to move on to a discussion about some of the particular architectural questions?
well, I think again, I think the bulk of the building is being driven by less so than the layout of the mikvah, more so with the uses that are being proposed above on the third and the fourth floor. And that is concerning. And I think the layout of the mikvah can be modified to allow for, if you want more mikvah places, maybe within that. But I think and the reason I'm having struggle, I'm raising that question is because the as of right use is relying on, it's the as of right use is not being maximized the same way the proposed was, like the cellar space, right? You're using the vault in the as of right. Why aren't you using it in the cellar
Sure.
space? In the as of right, the layout of the two units are extremely suffering because of the program spaces that is above, which is driving the mikvah. If mikvah is the primary use and that is the accessory use should not be driving the bulk for the primary use. And that to me is concerning on the as of right. So need to revise the as of right plan where you have put full focus on how much can be achieved on the side and the as of right with an optimal layout that allows for the most amount of mikvah spaces on the ground floor and in the cellar floor. And then whatever result comes out on the second floor, third and the fourth floor within the envelope that can accommodate you as of right, show that, prove that, and go through your arguments. I think it's happening in the reverse order.
Okay.
And to add to that, I think this is both programmatic and architectural. I think that the inclusion of men's programming in this building seems to require additional circulation in order to separate the populations, which then consumes more floor area. And so that tie of why a woman's mikvah needs men's programming and why that should then trigger the addition of additional circulation that takes up floor space, that obviously has not been argued or prosecuted well enough for us to understand and justify it.
Understood. And we get the point. To the extent that it was not critical to the programming of the mikvah, it would make life a lot easier. But our understanding from the Board of Rabbis, as well as the Chief Rabbi of the mikvah, is that it's necessary. And again, it's our burden to demonstrate that, and we will do so.
And is this all customarily found in connection to the mikvah?
Understood.
With examples demonstrated, in the local environs, preferably.
Yeah.
Are there specific architectural questions that your team wanted to discuss with us?
Hi, Dominic Casal here, principal and architect at IMC Architecture. I did have a question, just for clarity on the comment regarding the use of the vault space in as of right versus the BSA proposed drawings. I'm looking at them, and we are in both scenarios. We're utilizing the vault space as accessory, required mechanical space, but also as an accessory laundry and storage room. And I believe that was consistent between the two sets.
I do stand corrected. My main concern with the as of right was that the amount of the relational spaces, supporting spaces that are needed to operate, mikvah, the amount of storage space that is being proposed in the as of right mikvah space is significantly more than the proposed, when the volume of the occupancy load for the proposed is much, much more than the occupancy load for the as of right. So that is why I'm asking for a proportional analysis of room by room space for each one of these as of right and the proposed to indicate what is the proportional amount of supporting spaces that you need for the mikvah operation.
Understood.
additional amount of administrative space, staff space that you need for the mikvahs for as of right on the proposed, because the staff space for the as of right or for the proposed, I think the proposed is overly generous. So there are a lot of things that need to be done to justify even the as of right and the proposed as to why they're differentiating so much. So I need to see a chart that lays out the required spaces of the mikvah and what are the supporting spaces of mikvah, and what is the as of right floor area that is being laid out for that, and what is the proposed, and what is the percentage allocation? Why is there such a difference? I think if you do the as of right layout in the most optimized layout configuration as the board has seen that has been submitted, you could achieve more, as I said, given the floor plate that you have, you can achieve more.
Noted.
Compared to the plans that were submitted by your team, which shows that there were 12 mikvah, there were 12 prep rooms were provided, 14 prep rooms were provided in a much smaller floor plate, whereas here you're not able to accommodate even 12, barely. So there's a problem with the layout in the as of right itself. So focus on the priority use, primary use, and then design the rest around it, not the other way around. And that is the problem with the proposed also.
Noted. We'll take a look. I will just say the requirement for the 2 separate circulation paths, and I think as one of the commissioners stated, the what might seem like a redundant stair and elevator in the design does kind of limit our ability to kind of maximize that. But point taken regarding the comparison between as of right and proposed, and we will take a better look at the as of right and trying to space allocate proportionally.
Strongly suggest that you look through the plans that were submitted to us by by your team of approved mikvah spaces where the wet and the dry were done in a way where they were optimized.
Okay. I did have one other question. I believe the comment regarding the permitted obstructions at being more than what is permitted per zoning, and the we have both of our staircases coming up to the roof as well as the elevator, and the understanding was that the elevators needed to come up to the roof, whereas it's not necessarily occupied by multiple people. The rabbi will have to go up to the roof to monitor and observe the rainwater collection area, which is on the roof that serves the mikveh pools. And so by the elevator or extension of having to draw the elevator up, and then we're deeming that space as being occupied, requiring both means of egress to come up, we exceeded our allowable permitted obstruction for the stair bulkheads.
Okay, I understand the elevator, but I suppose what I'm asking for is take your stair back from the street, if possible, where you can, because part of it is a setback from the street wall so that your building appear as tall from the street.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a percentage of the area that you have to do that calculation. So I am asking for more of an effort or an attempt to try and comply or come as close to compliance with that permitted obstruction. Because this is a massive building for this zoning area. This is very, very tall.
Mm-hmm.
Adding extra height by putting these bulkheads right up against the street wall, so the appearance of it will be enormous. The zoning's there for a reason, and so I'd like to see some alternative proposal. And then on that, floor-to-floor heights, I'm not convinced they need to be this tall. So unless you show me some section with some detail of why this is 14 feet and why this is 12 feet, they need to come down.
Noted. We'll take a look at the configuration of the stairs and see if there's a way to set it back beyond that 10 feet, which is the number to limits the area. Just a quick comment regarding floor-to-floor heights, because we do have mikvahs located on the second floor. It does, and they're about 5 feet deep, plus the cradles and the structural supports, it does leave us with very low headroom. So we can provide a little more detail on the as we're working through the construction documents here and coordinating with MEP and the MICVR's requirements for heavy ventilation, circulation. But we can try and detail that a little better and substantiate the need for the floor to floors.
Okay, and I'll say that that's why you have dead space below the mikvahs on the second floor. I've
Yes.
done pools, I've worked on indoor and outdoor pools. I know that you have to kill the floor beneath it, but you should be able to do it within less than 10 feet probably, because it's only how many feet? 3.5 feet deep. I understand it's a deep cradle and the structure is deep, but if you draw me a section and it exceeds 10 feet, then maybe we have something
Right.
to talk,
Okay.
right?
Okay. All good on my side.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Any other questions or comments from the team?
I think we've got a fairly complete list of comments, both at the executive session as well as from the hearing, which we can respond to in our next submission.
Just please be aware that we have to do a new notification.
We have to do a new notification. It has to go to the community board
Sure.
and everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll reach out to you about that. Okay, the case that we're currently discussing is 2024-51 BZ, 1983 54th Street, Brooklyn. Should you wish to comment on this case, excuse me, dial 669-254-5252. At the prompt, you'll enter the webinar ID number 161-378-7885 and press the pound sign. At the next prompt, you will press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you will press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute if you're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already and wish to participate, please raise the Zoom hand, which is the little hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you're recognized, you will have 3 minutes in which to discuss. Just waiting for the timer to go out.
Just trying to understand the circulation. I have a question regarding the stair run 7,
All right, no one called in.
which I'm assuming is the stair run to be used only by women, as opposed to the others staired by elevator number 2. Why is stair 7 continuing to go up beyond 3rd floor when it is only women and it can terminate there?
You're talking about.
I'm looking at drawing number 13. And so the women's floor is on the 3rd floor, and then is the men. And there's a set of staircase that lands from the ground floor to the 2nd floor to the third floor. Why is it continuing up to the fourth floor? And then that stair eventually is going to the right. Oh, what happened? Why is it? Yeah. Going to right. Yeah, and there is an access from the men's room, from the floor, the fourth floor, which is the men's floor, to that staircase, and then it's going up to the roof. Why does it have to continue beyond that?
That's our second egress from the roof level. So it passes the fourth, it goes beyond the fourth floor.
Actually, that's something that we should discuss because they're saying it now counts as an occupied roof because the need to observe the rainwater collection. And so they need
Yeah.
two means of egress. So they're providing two stairs, maybe thus two bulkheads. But I guess we would need probably some indication of the occupiable portion of the roof and an occupancy load and a clear notation of what the use is. Given that we wouldn't want to create any noise generators on the roof in this residential district.
Noted.
And name is up on the council. Says general counsel.
All right. How much time will you need to make these changes? I mean, you definitely need more than 20 days because you need 20 days to board notice. And then I think you need at least a month or two, if not more.
I think much of the work we're gonna do is gonna be done contemporaneously. I would just ask Lynn and Dominic, just as a general matter, if it was a month and a half, do you feel that's sufficient or do you think you'd need more?
It's okay for us.
Once Dominic is done, we're going to go back and revise all of our calculations, utilization, schedules, and all the graphics, which I think is very helpful to the board to understanding what's going on. So we'll need some time after Dominic's done. So
Dominic, how long does it take you? What's your total? Because then we'll just add on for Lynn.
Sorry, I'm thinking. On the I'm going to think out loud on the BSA proposed. I don't anticipate the layouts changing much in terms of the pools and the changing rooms. We'll spend some time looking at the as of right, which I will just say that the other thing that kind of makes laying out the as of right very difficult, which I agree seems maybe underutilized or inefficient compared to the proposed, are the other front and side the front yard setbacks, and that requiring those front yards and our bulk then and the stair and core within those bulks, which are the same, and again may seem redundant because of the programming above, kind of really makes it difficult to program the cellar space and the spaces above, because we have to work around those cores which are inset from the building. So it does, and I agree, and it's very difficult to lay out the as of right in the scheme, within the allowable bulk, and it is super inefficient. So I just did want to note that. Richard, the short answer to your question, I think we probably need about 3 to 4 weeks to finalize our changes.
And Lynn, after that?
like I said, we're going to go back to square one with it. Even if there are small changes, whatever it is, it's going to be total revision. So again, we'll probably also need at least 3 weeks.
Okay. So the applicant team is 6 to 8 weeks, it sounds like.
Mr. Casal, the reason I mention the as of right is you have a lot size that is well over 6,200 square foot. And, or it is actually 6,200 square foot, not counting the vault area. And the examples that were given to the board where of sites where the lot size was 3,200, 3,600 square foot, and they were providing 14 prep rooms. So yes, the program above is driving this problem, not the program below. The mikvah space is not the one it's not the, you know, if you were to take the same floor plate and lay it out, you could get your number of mikvahs on the first 2 floors. And then whatever remains is what you try to figure out how to make it work for the community facility spaces, the remaining accessory spaces, supporting spaces, not the primary spaces, supporting spaces. And I have to say, until the board is convinced of the nexus between the two, the proposed plan and the as of right plan will need a lot of work.
Okay. Chair, I think we're just going to say 2 months.
I will say that given the number of comments that we had, to say that the plans aren't going to change very much is already a bit disheartening. So I would like.
I think.
Well,
that-
I meant speaking on the proposed on the mikvah floors. The 3rd and 4th floor, obviously, we have to kind of go back and have a larger conversation. So I can't even really speak to the 3rd and 4th floors. But the cellar and 1st floor on the proposed are, I mean, we squeezed a lot. So without taking away programming, it's going to be, or mikvah changing rooms or pools, it's going to be extremely difficult to really alter them. But just my honest opinion.
Well, no, your stair needs to be where it is. It's a square, it's a rectangular site. I think there must be some way where you can minimize your permit restrictions of.
Yeah, no, permitted obstructions aside, we will take a better look at that and see if we can push that bulk more inward to avoid the permitted obstruction. So again, when I made that comment, it was really just pertaining to the programming on cellar and 1 in terms of pools and changing rooms. The client came with a kind of requirement, and we're fitting it within our envelope. So yeah, but noted, yes, we'll definitely take a look at the permitted obstructions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your participation.
Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 25, 2024-53BZ, 8903 57th Avenue, Queens. Andrew Stewart and Ms. Fullader.
Yeah. Have I just changed them to planning? Oh, okay, they both should be in.
Anyone else? Good afternoon, Ms. Fullader. Is anyone else besides Mr. Stewart joining you?
No, just Mr. Stewart. Thank you.
Okay, please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
I do.
Please state your name for the record and proceed to respond to the board's comments at review session.
Elise Fullader from Eric Polanic PC. Thank you so much for your comments. I'm here with Mr. Stewart from High Point Engineering. I'm going to let him talk about some of the comments, but I will address a few of them first. We can definitely provide more interior photographs showing that the signage is up, the sign about noise. I also spoke to the operator about the right turn sign. He's okay with that. We'll make sure that all the landscaping is in good condition and take photographs of that as well. Make sure that the trash is in fact inside of the dumpster as it needs to be. The site does operate 24/7 for the whole whole operation. And I told him I'm gonna need the times for trash pickup. He said, not a problem. Oh, and then the last item we can take a picture of is the graffiti on the PV Sun. Make sure there is no graffiti on the site.
Can you, please go through the plans, because I don't think the plans show the location of the signages, the turning signages, and also the noise, lowering your noise. If you could add those to the plans.
No problem. And then I'm going to turn to Andy to talk about the other items. I can go through them if you want, Andy, but I think you also may know them, so I can just turn to you. And if you want me to help in any way, I'm here.
Okay. Hello, board members. So I'll start real quick. The ADA stalls, you did know correctly that there was a 2 in the previous approval. They did some restriping and a connection for a access to the sidewalk, as you saw, and had removed one of the 2 stalls. Per ADA code, if you have 25 stalls or less on a site, you only need 1 ADA stall, which is why they only kept the 1. We'd like to leave it as it is, but if the board requires to have 2 as per the prior approval, we'll speak to the client. I'm sure we can make that work, so.
No, I just want to know if it's pursuant to the requirement. If it is.
Yeah, ADA code for 25 stalls or less, you only need 1 ADA stall per ADA requirement, so they're in compliance that way. So if you're okay with that.
Yeah. I have another comment, which is, when the vehicles are exiting onto, like on the 57th Avenue, when the vehicles are exiting, there's a stop sign at the curb. Whereas on the Queens Boulevard exit, there isn't any such stop sign so that should be provided. And if that is difficult, and I vaguely seem to remember that was brought up at the 2019 hearing. And if that is difficult to provide at the lot line, provide a similar, like a stop sign where when the vehicles are coming out from the pass-by and the drive-through, so that at least they're cognizant of the vehicles that are turning in or the traffic flow on Queens Boulevard. You pick a location, but I just think it's a little worrisome that vehicles will come out and will just have to blend into the Queens Boulevard traffic, and that is, it's not, you need a stop sign before the vehicles enter into the traffic flow.
Okay, yeah, we can look at adding a stop sign at that curb cut there. Perhaps a stop bar, painted stop bar would go with it also, so.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting those 2 locations, but you pick one that would be the most effective in terms of ensuring that vehicles do stop before they enter into the traffic flow.
Okay. So we'll do that. You were okay with the ADA stalls, I think, right? Just going back to that. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the only other 2 things I was going to talk about now were, I know there was requests for a lumen study and noise certification stuff, and I know we had done those studies in the past renewal in 2019. Everything was cleared. And since this was just a renewal now with no changes to lighting or noise and everything, that's why we did not resubmit those studies, because it's the same as existing as was previously approved. We did add a note onto the site plan regarding exterior lighting near residential lot lines, and it should be shielded. And I know the lights that they do have shields on them from the previous renewal from 2019, where it was addressed then. So for those reasons, I don't think we need to resubmit studies for lighting or noise for the site, but you tell me if that would be sufficient, or if you need something in lieu of full studies or what have you.
What about the AVC? We do ask, I think when we started requiring those AVC diagrams and the note, this application may have preceded that process. So
I asked, sorry.
Go ahead.
I asked the operator, like we do in other applications, to find the detail, like the white paper about the detail of for the AVC. And we can put a note that, like we've been doing, that AVC will always be on, and just confirm it with what type of speaker they use.
To add a note to that and indicate the, that,
To the plan.
Yeah, and I can show you another plan or just give you the note, Andy,
Okay.
from another application.
So I guess
provide
that,
similar type of ABC instrument, right? I don't know if they're different ones or not.
Well, we'll first confirm in the detail that it is AVC and whatever it is, and then we'll provide you with that from the, we usually do it's called like an HME white paper or something we've given you before. So we'll confirm that that is true, and then we can put on the note that the AVC shall always be on. What is the note? I had it open before for somebody else, but.
Okay. Okay.
I was looking, we have a note in the past that the automatic volume control feature for the speakers shall be kept active at all times. And then we give you the detail. Is that good?
Yeah.
okay. All right, so I'll work with Elise to update and get details on that. So if that'll satisfy the noise for the lighting, like I said, I'd add that note, there was no change since the previous lighting. There is shielding on their area lights that are adjacent to the residential lines that were put in back in 2019 and are still in place.
I just want to see, are the light poles structures indicated on the plan?
So there's a light pole that's by the drive-through by the menu board, I guess. Existing single fixture area light with shield. It's a little busy, but it's there. It's next to the menu board to the left on the Z-001. Right by the trash enclosure at the back, there's a note just below the trash enclosure.
Mm-hmm. Single fixture area light with shed. Yeah, I see that. And that's the only one you have there?
There's one there, and there's a light that's by the parking area. It's further away from the residential. That's I don't think that one had required a shield last time. I think it was just the one that was closest, so.
Okay. Right, okay, all right. So you have wall mounted and then you have 3 light structure. Okay, all right. Yeah, I am fine with that. The only thing is, the pass by lane, it's a one-way, right?
It should be, yeah. All traffic flows in that direction, so.
Any other questions or comments?
Did he answer the trash pickup?
The trash pickup, yes, that's
So,
that's
yeah, I have to get back to you about times, but because I have the days, as you pointed out, but not the times, but I'm sorry, I have to get that from the company.
okay. Okay. All right, let's go to the public then.
You put the sign up, Jella? Thank you. Shouldn't I do that so I could do it myself? The case we're currently discussing is 2024-53BZ 8903 57th Avenue, Queens. If you wish to comment on this case, dial 669-254-5252. At the prompt, you enter the Weber ID number 161-378-7885 and press the pound sign. At the next prompt, you will press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you will press star 9 to raise your hand, star 6 to unmute as you're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already and wish to comment on this application, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the little hand in the bottom of your computer screen. Once you're recognized, you'll have 3 minutes in which to discuss.
I know one person had submitted an opposition letter and said will be at the hearing to present their reasons for opposition. I don't know if that person is listening in.
Do you know what the person's name was?
I have to go through the, hey, hold on. Let me look.
Is that the telephone number maybe?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the telephone number. The objection. Where is it?
Time's running out.
Oh, testimony. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, there is the. I'm missing. Well, I'm not able to find it. No. I think I'm not able to locate it now that I.
There was, but I think we should have the case planner send a message out. So we
Yeah.
get some written testimony from you.
Yeah, I'm unable to. Okay. And nobody raised their hand, so.
Okay. So if the person who had sent in the letter of objection, if you still want to make a submission, you can.
Yes.
Send it to submit@bsa.nyc.gov for this case of 2024 53 BZ 8903 57th Avenue, Queens, and this is the White Castle.
And now I get it. Now I was able, somebody by the name of Jordan Platt, and I don't see that person's name here.
Well, there's a number of 345, but we don't see it. Okay. All right. How much time do you need?
I guess, however we want to do this, but I guess I would say 2 weeks if we're gonna replace any planting or anything, we have to look at all of our.
Let's shoot for.
Okay, whatever works for your calendar. How about that?
Let's shoot.
It's operational, so whatever works for your calendar, we just need to make sure that everything's in good order.
I want to find out if Commissioner is you're okay with closing.
Okay with that.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Motion to close, Chair Shanda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shabeta, Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
No.
So the record will be open for you to revise the plans and provide all the other documents that we had asked for. And we will schedule this for May.
Thank you.
We'll let you know what day.
No problem.
Okay. Item number 26, 2024 57 BZ, 136 39th Avenue, Queens. Is there anyone else joining you, Ms. Fullader?
Yeah, a lot of people. So there should be a Raymond Chan, an Angela, which A-N-Z.
Wait,
She
one
wants
slow.
the number.
Yeah, there are two Anzelas.
Yeah, maybe sometimes she needs a call and a screen. I don't,
Okay.
yeah.
Zilla, then Jerry Pie,
Yeah, Jerry Pie, and then Erica Swanson.
Erica Swans. Yes. And Madeline.
We don't, Madeline, if you're there again, sorry, we don't need you because she's the EAS consultant.
And what if someone with the last phone number 347? Oh, 345. I don't
know who that is.
Okay.
I guess we can, okay. You can let him in and ask. I don't really know who is calling in on a number.
We don't. Okay. Okay. Please put your cameras on and please unmute.
Is Raymond here?
No.
Maybe he was.
No.
Maybe he's the number.
Maybe he's.
Angela's also on the phone, so maybe.
Actually, I'm from the architectural team.
Oh, so Raymond's not coming?
No, he's not available right now.
Oh, okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay.
If you have any question, I would answer.
No problem. Thank you. Okay, we're ready, Tony.
Okay. Mr. Pai, could you please unmute?
Hear me now?
Yes. Okay, so everyone, right hands. Ms. Messian, please unmute. Ms. Messian, please unmute. Thank you.
Yeah, I see.
Raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
I do.
I do.
Okay, please state your name for the record, the lead speaker, and proceed to respond to the board's comments at review session.
Okay, Elise Fullader from Eric Polanic PC. Thank you so much for your comments. We really appreciate them. I'll just introduce you to the team before we get started. So Erica is our traffic parking consultant, so she can answer any of those type of questions. Jerry is from ownership, and Angela is a representative from the architecture firm. So I think first we should just clarify, apologies for the numbers changing, and we'll make sure to be consistent, but we did get previously approved 61 spaces and we are maintaining 61 spaces. At first, we thought maybe we were getting rid of 2 spaces, but we're keeping 61. And we will correct the DOB objection and any references to the wrong zoning resolution sections. But the next part I think we should talk about, because I think it was the biggest issue, was the parking study and how cars access the site. I guess I can start with, and Jerry can back me up if you need to, but what happens is that it's closed and someone has to call and then an attendant will come once they call the garage. So the garage is closed and you call, and that's how people access the site. And then employees or the various businesses can tell whoever is visiting them to give it a call, and someone will come and take their car into the 61 spaces. So that is how it works now. But Erica can tell you about how Erica can tell you now how she did the study. She didn't only use the few, how do you say that? Erica didn't just use the responses from the employees and their customers. She also used Seeker to look at parking. So I'm going to turn to her so she can explain to you how she did it and answer those questions.
Sure. So I think the first question was about the number of existing parkers. Because as Elise mentioned, when you're planning on parking in the building, you have to call to have the attendant open up the garage for you. We know how many people are actually parking there, and that number is currently 7. So the surveys weren't intended to give us the number of people who are currently parking in the garage as a number, because we have that number based on the information provided by the owners from the calls that are made to the parking garage. So that gives us the 7 parkers. Because of that, when we looked at our parking accumulation, we conservatively assumed that all 7 are arriving right at the beginning of the day and leaving at the end of the day, even though that might not be the case daily. And this was just to give us a conservative understanding of how many maximum people are in the parking garage under proposed conditions. So the second part of this, I guess no build would be the same, right? Because we're assuming that floors 3 through 5 are still vacant. So that's also assuming that we've got 7 individuals parked within the parking garage under no build. So under proposed conditions, we had sent out the survey to see what types of responses we got to understand the nature of people parking within the garage. But as we mentioned in the report, our survey results were not robust, and a lot of people declined to respond. So we disclosed those survey results within the study, but we did not actually use them to generate any numbers. So they're there just to let you know that we had sent out a survey and we had gotten some responses. All of our proposed parking numbers are based on Seeker standards and any approved studies that have been done in the past. So those numbers were not modified by any of the survey responses.
Isn't demand actually reduced or dampened simply by the difficulty there is for accessing that garage in terms of establishing your existing and no build parkers? If the garage appears locked and closed, people aren't going to try and access it unless they have some inside knowledge as to operationally how it works. So it's almost as if you're saying there isn't demand because people really don't know that there's a garage there unless they work there. But the parking is supposed to be for people who visit as well as for employees, not just for employees.
So as far as I understand, and Elise or Jerry, you can chime in on this if you have any additional background information. As far as I understand, when businesses are in the building, right? They're notified that they have the option for this parking for either employees or visitors, and then they have the ability to request those spaces. So the building owners are not the ones who are doing outreach to visitors about available parking. That would be the responsibility of the businesses within the building.
And maybe, I don't know if we could talk about this, Jerry, if you're whatever, but maybe we could put like a little sign, please call if you need assistance or something like that. Maybe that would help.
Yeah, if that's needed, that would help as well. And generally the businesses, the tenants and the businesses in the building know that if they have visitors coming, there is a number they can call for those visitors.
But yeah.
A no build assumption about utilization almost be better supplemented by a seeker analysis based on the space. In this case, since you're telling us 7 people, but we're not entirely sure that people are even aware that there's available parking or how to access it. Maybe the existing / no build should also be done based on the seeker standards, based on square footage and, you know, modal split and how many people are assumed to be coming to that and at what time.
Can I ask a question as to why even you have this business model of a parking lot which is pretty much empty most of the time?
And locked.
Yeah, when 61 was approved, and I, for one, being familiar with that area and site especially, is that that's a very congested street. So if somebody is going to come in and is going to wait to call, and then for gate to be open for to come in, it's not a very wide street. So cars are waiting and honking, and so you're doing a disservice to your own business model and your tenants. I think there's the whole intent of allowing the reduction in the parking by the previous board was to not to prohibit anybody from parking. It was to recognize the demand and the supply of the parking space.
I guess, Jerry, we can try to figure out a solution after
No,
this.
we can provide an answer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm
We can-
saying. We
yeah.
can try to figure out how we can address that so it feels like people can park if they need to.
Right, part of it, and within this building, when this was built, it's a single garage that goes down. So part of it is that the demand, part of it is that, there's every, tenants would, they would actually have to pay, to have this additional service. But, part of it is that they don't want, right across the street, we have the large parking lot. Right across the street. And a lot of times, they have to call, not just that they have to wait for the elevator, which was, at the same time, it's a single low elevator that a lot of tenants sometimes don't want to wait for it.
Right, but it's almost if this is your operational model, I don't see it working with ambulatory care, because whereas in offices, if the offices don't have a large amount of visitors coming every day, you could say, okay, I don't really need a full-time attendant because everybody's in place by 8 a.m. and they don't leave till 6. But what happens when you have ambulatory care and you may have like 20 people arriving every 25 minutes or every hour? And you're saying, I don't need the spaces, give me half of the spaces, but in reality, you're not even going to use those half spaces because you're not going to make it easy for the people who are coming for doctor's visits to even come. I could imagine people saying, I have to be at the doctor at 11 and I show up at 10:50 a.m. and I'm like first calling, and then you're like, oh, let me find the one guy, the handyman who can also operate the doors in the elevator, and then he's gonna come down and then explain to you that he's gonna take the car, he's gonna give you a ticket so you can get your car back, whatever, maybe take payment. You're late for your doctor's appointment already. Not to mention, if you're on a very congested block, there's a good chance that the parking police gonna come by and be like, get out of here, like move, move, move. And now you're gonna have to circle around and find your way back over there with the no right turns and the no left turns over there. It just doesn't sound like it's a good business model going forward for an ambulatory care facility.
So they're gonna be, well, I guess I just want to point out that I know there's different types of ambulatory and that each floor only has like 5,000 square feet. So they're gonna be smaller things like eye, go to the eye doctor and things like that. And there's a lot of public transportation. But I think what we can do is we can think of an operational plan once these people are put in place that can make it easier. Maybe, I don't know, there's something we can do where when you make an appointment, they send you information, something, I don't know, some sort of operational plan so the board can feel comfortable that these smaller doctor's offices, will be able to clients or customers can access them and know exactly how to park when they're coming for their doctor's appointments. If that works.
Yeah, just look at the business model and provide more clarity, because that will also help you answer the supply and the demand question.
Yeah, because it's not going to be like like an emergency care where like hospital vehicles come. They're going to be those smaller like clinics or, eye doctors and things like that. So we'll do an operational plan with the types of tenants we see in these smaller spaces and how they will be able to park.
With that, maybe in addition, showing us your parking plans, right? The cellar, the subcellar, the entry on the ground floor, and I believe there's parking on the second floor.
Yeah.
So we need clearer plans designating which spaces are for which uses that go in tandem with your operational plan.
Okay. We can talk offline, but can people park in all available parking or do we have to designate it separately?
Well, I guess I'm curious if the second floor is even being used for parking right now. I guess to better understand, and this is part of why I asked for interior photographs. Like, we need to understand how the facility is going to successfully operate. And I think part of that is understanding the layouts, and as your operational plan, are there designated spots? If there aren't because it's attended, then make that clear. But right now it's very unclear to me how the whole thing operates from what you've given us so far. So I'm just asking for more detail.
Okay.
This area has obviously high parking demand, very, very, very high parking demand. Just in general, you're in a very congested part of New York City. So,
and that's why I'm a little surprised by your marketing model.
Yeah.
Okay, Miss messing up your name, Messania.
Yes.
So-
Yeah, actually it's indicated on the floor plan. If you go to the page 8.
Wait 1 second, Angela, if you want to go through the plans, that was going to be my next thing.
All right.
I can open the plans now.
Sure.
Fine.
Yeah, I do see, I'm looking at the second floor plan and it says reserved for medical office, 4th floor, reserved for medical office, 3rd floor. So that's for on the second floor, I'm seeing that, but I don't know what's on the.
Sure. So is there a page? Okay. So which page should I go to, Angela?
The parking here we have at cellar, which is started at page 3. Then first floor, they're all indicated. Cellar at page 4.
I see.
Then, second floor at page 6 is indicated type of the use for the parking spots.
So there's no driveway shown on the plans, so I was having I couldn't find it. How do you get to the elevator?
Please go to the 5th page. When you get in,
The elevator's not shown here. And so I wasn't sure what the two garages. Yeah.
You mean
Is-
when people enter with the car, right?
Sorry, say that again?
You mean when people enter the building with the car?
Yeah, where is the lift, the car lift on this page?
Car lift.
The elevator for the cars? How am I going from the entry to the cellar?
There is a ramp.
I think you
There's-
need to show a car in the ramp to make it clear.
Yeah,
what-
Yes,
this plan
yeah,
doesn't
and
show
I-
the
yeah.
ramp.
Yes, sure.
No, the elevator lift, right above the existing lobby on the north side. There's two words for existing lobby, one on top, one on bottom. Right above existing lobby, there is an elevator lift. The word lobby right above that is where the car lift is.
Right, to the second floor, so it should be shown, the shaft should be shown on
Yeah, it
this.
should be shown on this plan, which,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Okay.
we'll provide more detail on that. And then, I guess now, I don't know if it's appropriate now to move on to other plan comments you had, but I just wanted to point out a few more things while we have the plans open. This is where the 74.32, 75, and 54.12, 55 came from, the numbers.
Right, but if you, I think there's a rounding issue here, because if you do it by comprehensively by use, I think you end up at 74 and 54, but
That's
you,
what I had.
yeah, you can double check that, and it does say that in different documents, but I think here you end up with these 2 decimal points, you then add that up and somehow end up higher than what your actual round. If you just take the single use of office and you divide that by whatever it is, I can't remember, 400 square feet,
Yeah.
you found that one number. And if it's above 0.5, it's up, and if it's
Yeah,
below-
so this should be 74 and this should be 54.
based on my calculation, but it would be great if you could show that in a clear calculation by use rather than by floor.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. Do you still want these and then a use total, or is that confusing?
I mean, for me, parking is calculated by the square footage, the zoning floor area of the use, not of the use per floor.
Right.
I think it just gets confusing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's too many numbers. Should
Too
just
many-
be one.
Too many decimal points, too many roundings. It's just one simple parking calculation per use.
Okay. No problem. And then, what other comments were there? I have to put- Sorry.
So I also wanted to say that when you do talk about your parking operations, whatever they're going to be to allow access to this parking, I think your plans need to reflect that and not just have a pathway to an elevator on the first floor without any kind of attendant or reservoir space or anything on the plans. Like the plans should show that. Right now, they don't. It's just a rectangle.
Okay. So I guess we just need to build out an operational plan for our prospective users and show it more clearly on the plans, as that's our big homework here.
Yeah.
And then just, I got the comments about making sure that it's consistent in the statement and the calculation. So we'll go back through, make those calculations look simpler, and we'll make sure it matches the statement of facts. And we'll make sure the right zoning section is on the DOB objection and in the plans.
Yeah, and do provide photos of all 3 parking spaces.
No
problem. All 3 parking floors, I'm sorry. Including it's not the ramp, it's the
lift.
lift, right? It's only lift that is providing access. And it is on which floor? So you enter from the ground floor and it's only on one side, and the other side, and I think this is where the problem is. That shaft is not showing and yeah. Okay. So, so actually the entry, the entrance to the parking facility is located to the east of the building entrance, because that's where the elevator is, car elevator is. And that's going to take the vehicles down to the floor or up to the second floor.
What is the other garage door used for?
Is that the loading?
That's a loading bay.
Okay, so it
Can you just
indicates
mark
that
it?
And we can show the pictures. We'll get pictures for you of the loading bay.
yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
And on the plan indicate that to be, because that looks like a solid wall. There isn't any entry.
It's a rolling up tour, but I'm gonna update it and make a note and show it like more clearly.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Oh, Tracy's raising her hand.
Oh, I didn't see.
Okay,
it.
just
Here.
a few things. So to confirm, do you still want revisions to the parking study at this point, or do you want the operational plan first?
Me, I would like to see
Both.
revisions to the parking study.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, we reviewed the revised EAS. I'm going to be sending a few additional comments on the revised EAS.
Yeah.
Public? Let's go to the public, Joe.
So I just want to be clear, revision should be done to both the parking study and the operational plan.
No problem.
Okay. So the case that we're currently discussing is 2024-57 BZ, 136 39th Avenue, Queens. Should you wish to comment on this application, dial 669-254-5252. At the prompt, you'll enter the webinar ID number 161-378-7885 and press the pound sign. At the next prompt, you will press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you will press star 9 to raise your hand, star 6 to unmute as you're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already, please raise the Zoom hand, which is the little hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you are recognized, you'll have 3 minutes in which to discuss.
How much time will you need to make these changes and respond to the comments?
I guess because we also have to redo the parking study, and Erica, tell me if I'm wrong, a month, is that correct? Is that the correct amount of time?
I think that's probably about right.
Okay, I'm relying on you because I think your part's the hardest.
Sure.
Okay, I think end of May is probably a better time frame for your submission. I'm just looking at the submission date for end of May is actually May 1st, which is May 19th, 20th is the hearing, end of May when I say it's actually May 19th, 20th. Or we could do June 9th and 10th, submission date is May 22nd.
I guess I would ask the team what they feel comfortable with because their parts all have to happen first. So I don't know, like, can Erica and Angela, can you tell me what you feel more comfortable with? Because your part has to happen and then I can review my part.
Could you repeat the submission date for the May 19th?
So May 19th submission date is May 1st.
May 1st. Okay. That should be okay for me.
Is that okay for you, Angela?
Yes, that can be okay for us.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. And you will need to revise the statement of facts and all of the other documents also by that time.
No problem. I will make sure that matches with all of
Yeah.
their.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for your participation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This concludes the public hearing for March 25th, 2025. Thank you, one and all.
Have a good day.